I'm Chicky Bok Bok. Welcome to the show where neuralgia comes alive. Wait a minute. Neuralgia? Isn't that nerve pain? Why would you want to go to a show that gets on your nerves? What's that? Oh, nostalgia. Oh, thank you. Welcome to the show where nostalgia comes alive. It's time for Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Enjoy. Roll it.
Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Join Jake and his friends on a journey through pop culture of the past, where they interview professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and so much more. Who will they be chatting with today? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Happy here with us. Thank you for joining. As always, I'm your host, Jake Duffenball. With me today, as always, our co-hosts, Chris Bixby and Matt Bingo. How are you guys?
What's
Doing
going
good.
on, folks? Doing good. How you doing, Jake?
Awesome to hear. Doing great, Matt. As always, thank you for asking.
That's wonderful. And we have a special guest co-host joining us for this interview. His name is Keelin.
Yeah.
He's been a friend of ours for a good while now. How are you doing, Keelin?
I need to go eat, but yeah, now we're good.
You
Well,
understand why.
no worries at all. But yeah,
I don't understand why he
yep.
says that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Keelan, for taking time to be a guest co-host for this wonderful episode. Really appreciate and so cool
Yeah.
to do it. So thank you again, my friend. And you guys, you're out there. This was such a absolute. I know it's one of those episodes it's been a while since we have kind of like a long interview, but it
Yeah.
was so great. It was so wonderful.
So worth it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think you all will enjoy. But if you want to know more about what we're going to be chatting with today, Chris, what do we have?
Yes, thank you, Jake. Today's chat is with Bruce
course.
Connelly, who is best known for being the current performer of Barkley on Sesame Street. We discuss how performing Barkley works, some of the physical challenges when performing him, his longtime career as a theater actor, and a whole lot more. Enjoy.
See you then.
Yes.
Or not.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive.
Yes. Happy you're here with us, folks. Today, we are very pleased to welcome Bruce Connelly. Bruce, happy to have you here.
Thank you very much.
How you doing?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we've been working for an hour to get together with you, so it's nice to finally hear your voices.
Absolutely. Great to have you here. Really much appreciated.
We're delighted to have you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so to start this off, could you tell our
course.
audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm a professional actor. I've been acting for over 50 years, mainly on stage. And on television, I play Barkley on Sesame Street. And I've worked in vaudeville, burlesque, drama, comedy, musical comedy, the circus, quite a variety of jobs in my professional career.
Nice.
And now I'm an interviewee.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Welcome to the club, Bruce.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, anyway, what was your childhood like, and how did you grow up?
I grew up in Connecticut. We were raised in an apple orchard, so most of our time we were outside running around in woods and with our dog, and not anywhere near the town, the main town center. So we're lots of kids and lots of houses around me had kids our age, so it was a lot of fun. But I was in Wallingford, Connecticut, which is slightly north of New Haven. I don't know if you know Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I lived there for a couple of
Absolutely.
years. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
one of 5 children, Irish setter puppy.
Huh. Nice. Nice.
Very nice. So, did you always want to pursue acting as a career?
Mainly initially, I wanted to be a butler.
Oh wow.
What?
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know why. I just know that I wanted to be a butler. Really can't explain that. Then, oddly enough, I wanted to be a dog. That's true. I think the Shaggy Dog, the movie, had a lot to do with that. But my first choice of career, when ninth grade, they ask you what do you want to be, and I said I want to be an animator for Disney.
Oh
And
wow.
Oh
They
wow.
asked me,
Huh.
they asked me what my parents thought of that, and I was confused by that question. I said, "What do they have to say about it?" I mean, I thought it's what I wanted to do. They said, "Oh, well, wouldn't you consider English teaching?" I went, "How did you get from animation for Disney to English teaching?" No, animation. And then they found Disney's address. I actually wrote to him and drew pictures for him, and I actually got a letter back. He was still alive at the time, and he told me that an animator had a lifetime job with Disney. And when there was a vacancy, they filled it with someone from the Los Angeles area. And then he went on to talk about places to study. I thought, well, I can't wait for someone to die to get a job. And how would I ever get to Los Angeles? Because at that point, I'd only been to the town next to mine in Connecticut. I thought, well, I better be an actor. So I decided on acting. That was really how I made the jump from animation. Although I've been drawing all my life, I've continued drawing. And then when I got to LA for a
Nice.
while, I did have an interview with a company that was doing The Secret of Nim. Remember that movie?
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I may have heard of it.
Very beautiful
They had,
movie.
yeah, they had split off from Disney. Those are Disney animators who left Disney and then started their own company. But then as they spoke to me about the job, I realized that one of the jobs they were talking about was the storyboard, which tells people what to draw, and the other is the animator who has been told what to draw. And he said you spend a year on 3 minutes of animation. And I thought, I want to be able to draw and my own stories, opposed to someone telling me what the story is. And I thought, well, maybe comic strip art is the way to go. So I worked for a few years on that, and then I started submitting, and then newspapers started folding. But they did say need to go to a syndicate. Well, by that time, I was already into acting and working as an actor. So I thought, well, either I'm going to focus completely on acting, or I'm going to focus on getting a syndicate to send out my animations. So I was able to still keep drawing while I continued working on stage. So that's how I moved into stage work completely.
Nice.
Nice. That's awesome. It's kind of a perfect transition, actually. So of course, over the years, you acted in a ton of theater productions. What was your first kind of exposure to theater?
Let's see. Probably had to be in first grade, where they were doing the Christmas pageant.
Oh,
And
okay.
all the kids were cast as I don't know if you know the song, The Friendly Beasts. So each of them sings a verse about what they did in the manger. And like I said the cow all white and red. I gave him a manger for his bed. I gave him the hay to pillow his head. I said the cow all white and red. And then the doves will sing and the sheep will sing and the there. And I didn't get a part, but in church school we also sang about the camel, and the music teacher didn't know the verse about the camel. So I said, well, what about, I said, the camel yellow and black over the desert upon my back, I brought him a gift in the wise man's pack. I said, the camel yellow and black. She said, well, you can be the camel. So I got my own part. So that was the first time I was on stage being a camel, but I had to work to get that job myself. But as far as professional theater, I saw, when I was 7, I saw the musical Brigadoon at there was a theater in our town where professional touring companies went through. And when I was a teenager, I started working at that theater as a apprentice. They called it an apprentice, but the apprenticeship didn't lead to anything. They didn't give us a union membership or anything. They just paid us $20 a week for. Tried to figure out how many hours a day. It was 10 in the morning till 11:30 at night, with an hour off for dinner, I think we had a half an hour off for lunch, and that was 7 days a week, and we got paid $20 a week. So I know, figure the math. Like, take those hours, add them up, and then divide it into 20. See what we were getting. But as long as they called us apprentice, they could do child labor. So I worked there for years, and we actually had a great time doing it. We changed scenery for all sorts of big name stars. Stars would come in every week with a new musical. Then they'd travel on to another theater while the next show came into our theater. We had people like Mitzi Gaynor, Carol Lawrence, Martha Ray, who was one. I don't know if these names mean anything to you today, but Liberace was there.
Oh, the Liberace, yeah, wow.
Yeah. The burlesque shows, that's what I was saying, worked with burlesque, but Ann Corio's, you probably wouldn't know Ann Corio today, but Ann Corio was reviving burlesque. So that was in the 60s. She was reviving burlesque sketches and so on. I worked there for 6 or 7 years right through college, and then I went to New York after that. And that's the time when I met Misha Sissy I was talking to Jake about yesterday.
Oh yeah, Michelin Sissy, a good friend of ours.
Right. So I met him when I was in college.
Oh, he's great. Mission.
Isn't he wonderful?
Mission's wonderful.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
So
so he's a great friend of ours, a previous guest of ours.
He's still out there working for the Muppets.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's
such
wonderful.
a wonderful guy. Absolutely.
Did you see him in Dinosaurs, the TV show Dinosaurs?
Oh yeah.
Did, yes.
So, absolutely.
Wonderful show.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
I don't know if you ever saw him live or got to see him on stage, but his ability to perform any style of character. I remember the little girl dinosaur who was a little vain and a little overweight, and she,
Right.
he played that. But then he played the tree hugger. Just like a regular guy on the docks. The one that looks like a turtle who shoved the trees over. But we were in this pantomime company together. We worked. It's called Orchestra, and we perform with symphony orchestras all around the country. In front of them, so the full professional orchestra would be on stage, and we would have like about 6 feet or so, maybe 7 feet down stage of them, and we would be performing stories set exactly to the beat of the classical music. If you think Looney Tunes cartoons with classical music with no words, but all our energies were directed by the way the music was composed. We're very faithful to the composer, and that would give us funny directions of the story sometime. But Misha was in that originally, and then I got into that, and he was one of the directors as well, and he's absolutely perfect. Where a finger should be, where your eyebrow should be. Just this is great detail work. But he was offered Barkley when he was doing Dinosaurs, and he wanted to stay in the West Coast, so he recommended me then to Henson for the audition.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So now going back a bit to theater, one of your early theater roles was the musical Godspell. Can you talk a bit about that?
How do you know that? What? Huh? How do you know these things? Yeah. So Godspell. All right. So that was when I did Godspell. It was called the world's most popular musical. So I think Les Mis became the world's most popular musical about 15 years later. But anyway, Godspell. Most of my best friends today are still from that company. We traveled to 37 states initially, and then we. From that time, I moved from what they call the Jeffrey Clown, the clown who sings "We Beseech Thee." I went from that role to the Jesus role, and then played that in Italy. And we toured around Italy for 2 weeks in this festival that they have there every year. And then I went to the Off-Broadway company, play Jesus. So it's a wonderful show. And back then, I don't think it's the focus in theaters. Looks at story theater as much as they did back at that time, but there was a whole interest in what they called story theater, which was acting out. It could be fables, folklore, whatever. This case was the Bible, Matthew, acting them out in clever, interesting, funny ways. And the man who wrote Godspell later then started a theater company in New York up at the Cathedral of St. John, and we worked with him until he passed in the mid-'80s. But we would do plays with him this is the world's largest Gothic cathedral. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying. This space that is 2 football fields long, we were doing shows like Every Man and new pieces that you wouldn't know of, but for gigantic crowds of people. In the old, like, medieval style of performing, what they used to do back in the medieval days inside cathedrals. So it led to a lot of other jobs that the Godspell did.
Nice.
Awesome. So now you also acted in a variety of productions under Seven Angels Theater. Can you talk about some of your work with them?
How do you know these things?
It's just us. You have a
Like there's cameras
wonderful
everywhere.
wonderful research that it just boom, just pop up like magic. Anyway,
But there's cameras everywhere. Just remember that.
I've got to tell you. Excuse me. So, Seven Angels, I have to tell you, Waterbury, Connecticut, is a blue-collar working town, and into that town named Semina de Laurentiis. That's her name. I was in college with Semina, and we did a lot of plays in college, and we came to New York together at the same time. She was, we traveled in the same car to New York, and she had an apartment down in the Village, and I was on the Upper West Side. Semina, you might know her from this. She originated Nonsense, the very first production of that, and she was Sister Amnesia, which was based upon her style of comedy, and she's a very, very funny, clever woman. She decided to leave New York and go to Waterbury and start a theater in Waterbury, which she did. It's now been running over 30 years. They do a full season from September through May. And because we worked so much together, she sees possibilities in what I might be able to do that I don't necessarily see. All that to say, she said, I want you to play, not audition for, I want you to play Max Bialystock in Producers. And I was going, boo, what? And I did. Other wonderful shows like Boeing did that. She thought of me as George Burns. Now, you can hear from my voice isn't anything like George Burns. And I had to work a year on creating his gravelly, smoker's voice without injuring my own throat. She thought I could play it, and did the one-man show there of Say Goodnight, Gracie. And it's, who was it? Frank Gorshin had done off-Broadway here in New York. So I did that, and then that led to other theaters hiring me to play the same play. And then Semina wrote 3 other plays where she took episodes from the TV show of the early George and Gracie, Burns and Allen TV show, and putting them together for an evening in one play. And then she played Gracie. And we did that. We just finished the last one last year, and we had a great time with that. So that led to other people saying, I hear you play George Burns. We're going to do a show about Bobby Darin, and George Burns was his mentor. And that got me the part in that show. So it's odd to think that George Burns still has work today. If he lived to be over 100 years old, and he worked in everything from vaudeville through movies to radio as each was invented, into television when it was invented, into Vegas, and won his Oscar and the Sunshine Boys when he was 81 years old. Kept working in and even then made special appearances after that. But this wonderful comedian, I've been playing him a lot. But all that's coming out of Semina's vision of what she sees I could do. So I've worked there for some years, but I can't even think. Maybe 20, maybe more shows that I've done there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wonderful audiences.
Absolutely. So now, could you kind of talk about like what is directing theater like compared to performing in theater?
That's a good question. that is, I like that because it's like you have, well, how do I explain it? As an actor, you're focusing on your own role and how you interact with other people. As a director, you have to know how and why all the actors in the play should be working and how they're all interacting with each other. And one of my pleasures in directing is helping an actor to achieve that. Maybe it's just a little gesture or something that they can try to see if that helps them to make it more real. But it's like starting from the very beginning, you have to know what you want for the set and what the props are going to be, what you specifically want as a prop. Got to cast the show, work out all the scheduling and all that. Once you get down to the actual directing, then your focus can be on that while everyone else is building the sets and gathering the props. But it's like you really focus on everything, aren't you? In the past 20 years, I've directed, I think, 25 shows with student performers from ages 10 to from 9 to 11, 4th through 6th grade, and then some of them as they got older, I continued working with in summer sessions, doing another show that would be a little bit harder than what we might do at the elementary school level. And that has been great because these students are not trained at all. You're beating them in their possibly first play, but also I would adapt all of those plays myself from a novel which I think they should be reading. So it could be Tom Sawyer, Alice in Wonderland. I adapted a wonderful book called Half Magic, and that was challenging because everything is they wish something and it has to appear on stage, but we had no budget. It's not like there's a lot of scenery or money or costume money. The kids make their own costumes. I keep the scenery as simple as possible, but I think the challenge is to have them express themselves verbally. So in each play, they're not watered down. They're speaking in the language of each author. So if you read Peter Pan, for instance, there's wonderful writing by James Barrie that is never in the play. It's like he's making wonderful comments in between the lines. Or look how difficult Alice in Wonderland is if you think about a child that age doing those lines. And luckily, I was very lucky that I had a 10-year-old girl who played Wendy perfectly. I think that was a great age for Wendy. And Peter was 10 as well. I'd never seen a 10-year-old Peter Pan before. And he was just perfect, like a careless boy who was completely distracted by, Butterfly. And only paying attention to what he wanted and, selfish and, sort of out for adventure. And he was perfect as Peter. So that's the reward of seeing those kids then in 3 weeks, rehearsals, bring it to life as only they can. That's one of the great pleasures of directing.
Nice.
Interesting. So, moving on to the puppetry side of things, what made you want to become a puppeteer?
Well, remember I wanted to be a dog.
Yeah.
Remember that when I was a kid?
Yes.
Hold on to that thought. Remember, and because it came to me. The puppetry came from Misha because, when he was offered the part, he called me and asked me if I was interested in that. So now I had watched the Muppets since whenever, and we just idolized them all.
Yeah.
And I mean, our dinner hour was changed to watch the Muppet Show. We had watched them for years. I only watched the Jimmy Dean Show to watch Ralph.
Nice. Yes.
Nice.
Please let Ralph be on the show this week. Of course, we saw the what he did on Saturday Night Live. I thought the best thing on Saturday Night Live was what he did, because at that point, sometimes the sketches are funny, sometimes they're not, but you got the monsters up on another planet being funny. But I'll tell you, the first thing I saw, before I get to the interest in puppetry, in college, we used to watch the show called Dark Shadows. I don't know if you know that show, but you can see it for free on Tubi. Make sure you watch it; it's great.
Oh, okay.
But
I'll
really
have to
took
check
over
it
the
out.
country. I mean,
No, it was on Tubi.
Yeah, it's like a vampire soap opera, isn't it?
Yeah.
it is, but don't tell anybody that because that's the surprise. When
Oh,
he comes out
sorry.
of the coffin, now we're no, spoilers. Yeah, it started
Spoilers,
out.
man.
As, yeah, it started out as a
Oh,
gothic.
Keelin.
Keelin. It started out as a gothic soap opera, which is basically young governess arrives at spooky mansion in Maine and to take care of a bratty kid and strange goings on. But there is a ghost, and you see the ghost occasionally. And they realized it was sort of failing after a while, after a few months. They introduced this amazing character, which no one talks about. They always talk about the vampire. But before the vampire, there's a woman, the mother of the little boy, who comes back into his life from Phoenix, Arizona. Well, it turns out she's a real phoenix. I mean, a phoenix. She died in a fire in Arizona, came right back. She was just reborn through the fire. And everyone's thinking, wait, we heard she died, and she's right there. She's denying it all, just ignoring it all. But what she has to do to prolong her life is now to take the life of her child in fire. Whoa. So we were possessed by this show, right? And we started cutting classes in college to watch this show, and everyone did. It was like, I mean, it would have been no Buffy today. There would be no Twilight. I don't like watch Twilight, but there's no Twilight today if it wasn't for Dark Shadows. I tell you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But one day someone
Nice.
said, "Look what I found!" And the minute after Dark Shadows ended at 4:30, they turned the channel to public television, and the first thing I saw was Grover running back and forth.
Good old Grover. Gotta love Grover.
Doing
Grover.
near and far.
Yeah.
Yeah, classic
Yes,
insert.
yes, classic.
Right?
Yes.
When I'm
Wow.
over here, I'm very
That's
near
so
to you. I'm very
great.
near. No, wait. And he runs away. No, I'm far away.
Yeah.
We were on the floor. We couldn't believe it. We didn't know what we were
Oh.
watching, and it was so funny. And then there was I don't know what this taught us, but there was a little meek Muppet singing, "Tell the postman not to call. I'm not coming home until the fall." He's singing off pitch, not me. And I might not get back home at all. Lulu's back in town. And then this big monster with an earring came on, went, "Hi, guy," and picks up this little man and starts flinging him around and dancing. And he keeps singing like he's singing. And she's flinging him and flinging him and flinging him. So look that one up in case you don't know. Lulu's back in town on Sesame Street. We were hooked from then on. So that was my introduction to Sesame Street. So with my
That's
connection
great.
then was Misha calling me and asking me if I wanted to go in an audition. So, be a Muppet? Who wouldn't want to be a Muppet? So I waited for a year.
Gollum Michelin. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody that hasn't met him, Jake.
Yeah.
You're the
Well,
best.
and-
You're the best, Michelin. If you're watching and listening, anyway.
Yep. They all want to meet you. Hi, Mish. So, and so I waited a year for the audition, and then I went away to Montana to go camping. I was in a teepee, and about to go after the teepee camping. I was going to go to my friend Cindy. We were going to the Grand Tetons National Park, and for no reason, I'd been there for 2 days. I called my answering machine in New York, and the audition was in 2 days in New York. And I had just gotten to Montana on my free ticket. I'd saved up enough miles to get out there. So I called them. Audition was Friday. I called them Wednesday, find out if the auditions would be held on any other day, and they said no, only on Friday. Well, I don't want to be the problem person, So I went, okay, I'll be there. So I had to cut the vacation out and get back to New York on Thursday. They had a video for me waiting here at my apartment, and I watched this video, watching Barkley run in the park, and I thought, it's impossible. How is that done? I have no idea. And I thought, it can't be two people, but it can't be one person. It's just a great big dog, And that would have been Brian Meal in the
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He is fantastic. He's the same one who went to China and Japan, but genius, Barkley. And he's the one who taught me. But I was watching Brian, and I was thinking, he's impossible.
And of
the
course,
next
he's
day was my
now
audition.
doing things for writing. stuff
Yeah, he's
now.
For
more
what?
Yeah.
writing now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's great. He's great. Nice guy. So,
Absolutely.
anyway, what I had to do was work out an improv. They just said work out a sketch about the dog, about 2 to 3 minutes. So I had an idea in my head, like Sesame Street's problem solving. Always problem solving. And who do you go to help you with a problem? You go to the adult. You go to Maria. You go to somebody, Bob. Or you find various ways to work out through the problem. And so I thought, all right, I'll do this. I'll have the dog playing with a ball and get the ball trapped under a table. And then I'll try 3 ways at least to get the ball out. Like I'll order it, I'll bark at it to come to me. And then I'll try to reach through and can't get it. And then I'll crawl under and then knock it out. But then I'd be too big to get out from under the table. And then I'd sort of look at the camera and give them one of those Muppet sighs, like, at the camera. And that would be the end. So I get into the audition, and there was a man in the costume who was screaming, "Get it off me, get it off me." And I guess a claustrophobic attack had happened in the costume. And I thought, oh, what am I in for? And they took the costume off him. They got it on me. And I realized that the tongue was pressed right against my nose and mouth. So I couldn't breathe.
Oh, wow.
And I only had the
gosh.
air I went in with. So at the start of my audition, I was out of air. And I was just trying to get through the audition without, collapsing. I didn't want to be the get it off me guy,
Yeah.
So, and Miss Piggy was watching. She was standing in the corner of the room just saying. She was on a stick. She was right there. And I got to be good for Piggy. And then, they didn't have a ball. So they gave me a wig block. Right? So, that looks like a human head made out of styrofoam. So I swung my leg like a golf club, nothing like a dog, but like a golf club. I swung it, and it went flying across the room. I don't know where it went. I couldn't see. I could see partially out of the mouth. Didn't know where it went, but I had to what I figured, I'll pretend now it's under the table. So I pretended it was under the table. It turns out it was. Not only was it under the table, it was under the far corner leg of the table. So it was perfectly shot, but accidentally shot. That was an accident. And plus, I swung the dog's leg like a golf club. So anyway, then I barked at it, but mind you, I had no more air, right? So I'm going woof woof, and then can't breathe. So then I reached for it, thinking I'm not going to survive this, and I crawled underneath the table, and I swung my leg one more time, and something went flying. I didn't know what it was, but it turned out to be the wig block. I accidentally hit it out from under the table. And then when I turned to the camera and did the exhalation of breath, there was no breath to exhale, so I sort of raised my shoulders and dropped them as though I breathed, and then waited very still for them to come and get me. And then I heard someone say, "Well, I bet you'd like to get out of that for a moment." I said, "Yes, hurry, please." They said, "Oh, well, I don't know. I said, just open the chest," and I just stuck my nose out. I said, "Okay, I'm fine." So again, don't be the guy panicking in the suit. So and then we talked, and I did some more work. But that was the audition, and then a year later, they gave me the part. So it was the audition, and then I guess they had to send the tape around to everybody. In New York, L.A., whoever's directing it all, and in London, whatever. And then they called me in for the callback. I was the only one they called back, but they said I understood dogs. They couldn't teach anyone that. They said we can teach you how to use the costume better, but we couldn't teach you how to understand dogs. And that's how I was called back. And you see, and that's because I wanted to be a dog when I was a kid. See how it all comes together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Full circle.
Could you repeat it all again? I didn't get all that.
So
Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned it briefly, but because Barkley is a full-bodied puppet, could you kind of explain how performing Barkley actually works? I know you kind of explained a little bit. Could you kind of go into more details to how Barkley actually works?
You mean how the costume works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, because I think they've exposed all that in the 40th year of Sesame. they did talk about how everything worked. Thing I liked about it was you don't know how it worked, until someone tells you. It's like Cookie Monster's eyes spinning around. How do they do that?
Right.
Right. But with Barkley, there's a lot going on in there, but mainly I'm running in my front legs are crutches, because a dog has 4 equal legs and we don't. So the arms have to be extended by about a foot in the front. So the hands hold on to handles in the middle of a crutch that is also gripped around your lower arm. I'm checking. I'm looking as though you can see me. Lower arm. Then you hold on with a handle in the middle, and then the crutch continues past your hand to the foot, which is another almost a foot below your hand. Okay, so that's the structure in the beginning. So when you stand on that, ideally your back is straight. Then right. So the head is then attached. So the head is built around a helmet inside, and attached to the helmet, and then running down through costume. Trying to describe there's so much going on inside the fur, and there's a mesh thing underneath the fur. But anyway, there are 2 cables that can tighten. You turn your head one way or the other. So the cable being attached down at the foot, running up the leg, through the helmet and into the ears, that will raise the ears up or down by tilting your head. So it tightens the wire, and then it raises the ear. If you lean your head back, you can raise both ears. Like, what? Or you hear a loud noise. That's a good reaction to pull your head back, and both ears will go up. The tongue is supported in the mouth permanently. There are little weights inside the tongue that give it some heft. So panting, you keep the tongue active by giving the neck, your head a little nods, right? And that keeps the tongue moving and the jaw moving a little bit. But the tongue it looks like the tongue is hanging in, like a dog's tongue has weight at the bottom of it. That's how that works. And I see through the mouth. So that's something that everybody should remember, because there's often when I'm laughing, but you're not yet. I'm laughing because I find it funny, but you will find it funny in a moment. When I have to grab something in my mouth and run, I am now blind.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
So if I have a dog bone, if I have
a ball or something,
one time I had to grab Baby Bear's mobile. He had made a mobile of a spaceship going to the moon.
Oh,
when Slimy flew to the moon that year, and he's holding it up, and it looked like a big hot dog. Maybe it was a hot dog. And I think about it, he might have made it out of a hot dog. But anyway, there's a space rocket which Barkley sees and jumps and gets, and then the direction from the director was, and now run to if you can run off to camera 1. And I said, where is that? And they said, over here. And I said, where? And they said, we're waving at you. I said, I see through my mouth. So then Frankie, now we have to talk, don't forget, we have to talk about Frankie, because Frankie.
Yes.
Has anyone spoken about Frankie yet? The cameraman
Frankie
from Brooklyn?
Biondo?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, not yet, but I heard he's been there since, day one.
All right, we'll talk about Frankie some more.
Yeah.
But frankly, Frankie calls me you're an animal, Connelly. Frankie was camera 1. So he is great. I'll tell you about Frankie in a minute. But so I said, when they realized that my mouth, and then they said, don't you have a monitor in there? I was like, no, there's no room in here for a monitor. So I said, look, I'm in a football helmet, so I will run with my eyes closed. But someone just stopped me at the right spot. So that's what I did. There was another time when Big Bird was throwing sticks for me because we had smashed the door to the fix-it shop. I think we pulled it right off the hinges.
Yeah.
We got in trouble, broke the glass and everything, and Big Bird wouldn't play with Barkley anymore because we always get in trouble. And Barkley didn't know why, and so when in trying to get Big Bird to play with Barkley again, they took us to the park when we had. I don't know if you remember the park.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That was like
Absolutely.
during the like around the corner.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Around the corner, yeah. So
Yes.
I liked around the corner, but it was anyway.
Do.
We're in the park throwing the sticks, and so for me, Big Bird would throw the stick. I'd run off camera. The prop guy Russ would put the stick in my mouth and turn me and angle me back toward Big Bird because now I can't see where Big Bird is. Then I'd run back in. I'd do all the stuff like, here's the stick, throw the stick, all the dog stuff. Like, you throw the stick, you, here's the stick, you, look at me, you take that stick and throw it. I had to do all that with my head and my feet while he's busy, not sure if he should throw it again. Then he'd throw it again, and I'd leap off and run and chase it. Russ would stick it in my mouth, and I'd come back again. So this was going on, but each time I couldn't tell when I was at Big Bird. I couldn't tell where Linda was or Maria. I couldn't tell, when I had the stick in my mouth. Russ would have to say, "It's in your mouth," because I closed down on it, but I can't see it.
Yeah.
So you have all those problems when the mouth is closed, but they don't. The directors forget. I think the dog costume is so great, they don't realize, what's going on inside. And so that's one of the things that Frankie would keep me alive, because Barkley always looks happy, doesn't he? I mean, unless I'm being sad about something, but he's always perky and peppy and happy.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's up for something, some kind of game. But then like we were waiting for a couple of. It actually took 2 hours one day for this song to be filmed. I won't say who, because words kept being forgotten. And all I have to do at the end is run in and jump in the person's lap. And a lot of other Muppets were around on the set, so we're waiting, just waiting. And they do the take after take after take. And then finally Frankie would go, "We're killing the dog here."
Oh man.
Oh, wait.
Oh my gosh.
We're killing the dog. And so when I came out of there, he said to me, "You all right?" And I said, "Yeah." And my face would be like purple, And I'd say, "No, I'm fine." I said, "How long was I in there?" He said, 2. I said, 2 hours? He said, "Too long." But Frankie, I got to tell you, because Frankie is like one of the best. I work with Ken Diego a lot, or Ted May. I don't know if you know these names. As directors.
Yeah.
Some of the other.
Yeah, I know Ted May. We lost a couple years ago. Yeah, he was a great director.
Did we lose Ted? I don't know. Didn't know that.
Yeah, I think I saw him up at Wiki that he died. I think in like 2020 or something.
Oh, see, sometimes this happens and the word doesn't pass around. I'm sorry to hear that. Ted was a really good director, really nice guy to work with. Ken Diego, also very funny, very considerate director.
Yeah, I mean he's still there. Yeah, still directing
for him. And some of the others who are gone, I suppose I could name them because they're unfortunately, but they could tell you what they did to me. But Frankie is, to me, putting Ken aside now, is one of the best directors that I had on Sesame Street, because the rest of them all assumed I knew what I was doing. So I'd get in the dog suit, and they said, "Oh, just be a dog." Sometimes they would say, they always would say, "You enter here." Sometimes they say, "You stop here." But sometimes the scenes were Linda talking to somebody, and I want to go to the park, and we're not going to the park now because she's talking to somebody, and they're dealing with whatever they're dealing with, and I've got to be busy with my doggy thoughts. But I realized very quickly that what I had to do was sort of create my own blocking, my own scene, what's going on in my head, what's interesting me, what's distracting me, all that, because it was never directed into it, which is sort of an honor in one way, because they were trusting what I was doing. But at the same point, I was, as a stage actor, I was thinking I'd be blocked and directed, and I realized rather quickly that I wouldn't be, except Frankie and Jim Martin. Do you know Jim Martin?
Oh yeah, I've heard the name. Yeah.
He was the right hand of Oscar for a long time.
Right. Yeah. And
Jim would run up to me and say,
Yeah, and a
And
great
he said,
director
Bass
too.
and other
yes,
stuff.
and
Yeah.
he would come up and whisper to me, like, and of course he wasn't directing the show, but he would still sometimes slide me a note like, make sure you look like you're breathing, because otherwise you look like a doormat. Okay. You know, and then run away. But Frankie would say, like, from day one, I was having to try to play with this little dog who was Jerry Nelson, but they put Jerry Nelson's
Jerry.
dog for some reason on top of a wall because they couldn't figure out how to get a little dog in the scene with Barkley. So Barkley, the whole point was he wanted to play with a little dog, but little dog's on top of a wall, and so I had to, jump and bark and try to lure the dog over. I was panting. Everything a dog was doing, I was doing. It's my very first show. I almost passed out in the costume from all the panting. And Frankie would say, "Don't worry about the panting. We'll add it in later on if we need it." I said, "Okay," but the director didn't tell me that. It was Frankie, or he says, "If you can manage to look over your right shoulder when you get here, I can pick you up on camera one." Stuff like that. But great direction, simple things, but things that I wasn't being told. Like I said, I have no monitors, so I can't see what I'm doing or realize what the effect is on the camera until I see the playback. But Frankie would watch me and then give me notes, but I'm still an animal. So I've always been grateful to Frankie for keeping me alive in the dog suit.
Yeah, hooray for
Absolutely.
Frank.
Absolutely. So,
They have him. I don't know if you ever get to the studio, but in the store, in Hooper's store,
Yeah.
there's boxes of cereal and so on, and they have one of the cereals called Beyondios.
Oh, that's funny. Oh wow.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
like a smiling Frankie cartoon on the front, and then if you turn it over, there's a dot-to-dot puzzle that if you connect it, you draw a picture of Frankie sitting behind his camera.
Oh, that's wonderful.
funny.
Wow.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah. So yeah. So because again, Barkley's a full body Muppet. What are some of the physical challenges when performing a character like Barkley?
Your breath. There have been various. Well, no, not various heads. I've worked with 3 heads. I've had 3 heads, but now I think about it, the bigger head that they made me when I started was heavy, and heavier than probably a neck should carry. My neck is now 17.5 inches wide. I mean, around. Wide. That'd be pretty wide indeed. 17 inches wide. Around. So when I go to Macy's to get a shirt, my size should be 16 and a half, and then a 33-inch arm. But I have to get the 33-inch arm, 17.5-inch neck. And they go, "How come? Why is that?" I said, "Because I've been carrying around this dog head on my neck for all this time." So the problem with the extra size of it was that the weight, although perfectly balanced, if you're standing up, the weight was perfectly balanced, left, right, back and forth. Leaning forward, the weight pulls toward your nose, and then it's all on the back of your skull. So I was trying to figure out how to do that, because often I'd have to either track something on the ground, or I'd have to go down and eat my kibble or something like that, drink water, and you'd have to hold the head down for some time doing that while you're bobbing your head up and down while you're drinking water. So a friend of mine who was a sculptor in Montana suddenly came up with this idea, and he called me in the middle of the night one night and said, "Is there anything you can attach a bungee cord to?" And I said, "Maybe." And he said, "Because if you can get a piece of elastic and attach it to the back of the helmet and run it down your back and attach it to the back, like maybe to your tail, that would pull back some of the weight, help you support it." And that's what we did. We've been doing that ever since. So that was one thing. The other, all right, here's a funny story, because you'll probably ask me what funny thing that happened. Funny, maybe. Do you remember, for the punchline, you have to remember Ed Wood, the director, really bad director. It was Johnny Depp. he did Plan 9 from Outer Space, and in the actual filming, tombstones would fall over when the vampire walked past, and Ed would say, "It's perfect, keep rolling." He's a really, really bad director. Anyway, I'd just seen that movie, so you have to understand that before this story starts. In this story, I was to jump up on Gabby's bed, so Maria's daughter.
Oh yeah.
Was going to have a sleepover,
Right.
with Elmo and Barkley, and so I had to at one point jump up on the bed and curl up at the foot of the bed to sleep on the bed, and then they have to tell me to get off the bed. So I was pointing out the fact. Brian, who taught me the dog, he said, "No, you keep the integrity of the costume." He said, "Make sure you keep the integrity of the costume," which means to me he's a real dog. Just make sure that he's always a real dog. Problem being, to get on the bed was of such a height that I have to bend my elbows like a human being to jump on the bed, which would destroy the look of the dog, because think about this, dogs' elbows are backwards. You thinking about it?
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So the knob is in the front, and they bend backwards to what we do.
Mm.
So the writer of the script said, I said, if I do that, I said, a dog doesn't do that. And she actually said to me, "You're not a real dog." Oh boy. Oh my.
Oh gosh.
Oh.
No.
Yeah, I know, right? So don't tell me I'm not a real dog. So I came up with a solution. I said, what if I jump at the bed with straight legs, from off camera? This way we don't have to worry about the elbows bending in the wrong direction. So they thought that was great. So I jumped on the bed while they're filming, and then I noticed things were going by my mouth. I was noticing the light. All of a sudden, I saw the lights at the top of the studio, and I saw some of the crew, and everything. What is happening? I realized I was rolling on the bed. So Barkley has a great big head. The legs are in front of me. I start rolling to the right, and I roll again, and I roll again. I fall right off the bed onto my back with all 4 feet straight up in the air. Now I had no way to grab the bed, you see, because my hands are in the crutches, right? And no one on the bed grabbed me. So I just rolled right past them and ended up on the floor. And there was dead silence. Now, I thought it was pretty funny, but I was new enough to wait for them to say cut. No one's saying cut. And so I'm waiting there with all 4 feet sticking in the air, and no one's making a sound on the stage. And then finally I hear someone say quietly, "You all right?" And then a panic thing, "Are you all right?" And then I jumped up. I went, "I'm perfect. Keep rolling." So, but luckily somehow I didn't injure myself. I don't know why. I'm wearing the football helmet inside, but I landed like on my back, off the bed, all 4 feet straight up in the air like a dead dog. And but I survived that. But that was one of the issues, is the things that you have to do. So we've already covered, being blind when your mouth is closed, running on the crutches, and the weight of the head. They've made the head a little lighter because Barkley's been refurbished now. So it's a little lighter. But those are things. And the heat inside. But when you do the Macy's parade, it's a perfect costume for the Macy's parade, because you're outside, the wind is blowing, it's blowing right in your mouth, giving you fresh air all the time. So it's never hot. It's very cooling, and it's great to be on the float during the parade. That's one of the most. Although it's a long gig, it's one of the most comfortable Barkley days to be outside in the air.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome. So now, it might be like a difficult question to answer, because I'm sure there might be a lot of favorites of all that, but are there like any like favorite storylines, or episodes that Barkley was in?
Yeah, you're right. There are, some of my favorites were working with Carol Spinney.
Oh, of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
Rest
Did
his
you get
soul.
there were times when we weren't always together, but working with Big Bird, there's something about his humor in that
Yeah.
gigantic costume. That it's so gentle and small in this 8'2" costume. He's just the quietest, gentlest little. If you listen to what he says, like when he's criticizing his feet for wanting to go the wrong direction, and he's saying no, bad feet. Just a simple thing like that. It's adorable. But those are some of my favorites because Barkley and Big Bird would often work together, and then our breaks between shots were spent together. And he would get the feathers taken off, and I would get the head taken off, and I would just hear his stories, and his humor is so gentle and quiet, and I thought,
was it the Big Bird watches Barkley? Is it that one?
There were several. Once Big Bird, Bob lost me. Bob, we said Bob was watching Barkley and Big Bird. Actually, this was one of my favorites because I was very sad. Never see Barkley sad, but I'm in the they keep changing what that area is. What do they call that space between the Hooper's store and the 123 Brownstone?
Like the
courtyard, I guess.
Courtyard, yeah.
Yeah.
So on the right-hand side of the courtyard, there are those boxes that are piled up there. Always.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Always there. I don't know when no one takes their boxes in, but there's always boxes there. And Barkley was behind the boxes with his head on the box, his chin on the box, and crying. And it was heartbreaking. And when I finished that scene, I said, "We're talking Emmy." No, I never got one. But anyway, Barkley was very sad. It was like the end of Lassie, like the last moment of the poor dog. No one's paying it. How did Barkley get lost on Sesame Street? It's only from here to there. How did he get lost? And then we find out that Bob was watching Barkley and lost him. And I said, "How, Bob? I'm huge. Did you look out the window?" But anyway, Bob was supposed to be taking care of me. And Big Bird found me, and he took me over to Gina's. Now, do you know Gina?
Allison Bartley. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
she's
We interviewed her a couple years ago. Yeah, she's wonderful.
Absolutely
She
amazing.
was 2 years old. Her mother and I did Godspell, which you referred to before. She and I did
Oh,
Godspell together.
wow.
And at that
Oh,
point, I met
really?
Gina, who
Wow.
was 2 years old.
That's cool.
Yeah. Isn't that
Wow.
cool? So
great.
there's so Gina was having. What was she? Oh, I know. In Gina's house, there were 3 girl Muppets. Elizabeth was one of them. I think Zoe.
Oh,
and
Fran.
Somebody
Yeah.
else. I was in the dog set. I didn't see, but I think there were 3 girls.
Was it like Prairie Dawn or something?
Or Rosita,
that?
or
Rosita, or
It might
or,
yes, it might have been Rosita, right?
Rosita.
Sometimes you only see kneecaps, so you don't really know who's unless they're talking, you don't know who's on stage with you. But that's all I can see through the mouth. But so they had a little girl sleeping over, and they were all on the floor. And then we show up. So now in this living room, there's this big dog and the Big Bird. And so he takes up the entire chair. I take up the entire couch. Now we're all having a sleepover. She gets on the phone and she's talking to Bob, and that's how we found out that no, don't worry, Bob. We found Barkley. I'm thinking, you didn't look very hard. But anyway, we found Barkley. He can stay here. He can stay here. Everything's fine. So that's how we let Bob off the hook. Then none of us could sleep. So all of a sudden, for no reason, a whole bunch of sheep show up at the door. And so we all start counting the sheep as they come into the room. And we all gradually fall asleep. And then the next shot is us all asleep. And I love the way you've heard Big Bird sleep, right?
yeah.
Yep.
He has a very
Yeah.
unique sleeping.
Yeah.
Right.
Where Kara has to kind of like shake his own head in order for Big Bird to kind of have that.
Yeah.
Right. He's sort of holding his
Like,
bill in his hand and making a duck sound. And then so he's asleep,
Right.
I'm asleep, and the sheep are all over the place. There was one sheep who was on top of my head, and there's sheep piled up everywhere. And the little girls were asleep as well, and we were all sleeping. And I think that day the episode was brought to you by the letter Z, as we all went.
That's great.
Of course.
So that was a lovely one. But there's something special about being on the set when so many Muppets are on.
Yeah,
yeah.
like for like specials or like
Yeah,
like home
well, I don't
videos
think
or
I'd
something
done
like
a
that.
Oh, I did recently. I did the Cookie Monster bake sale.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, so that
just came out
was
recently,
a
I
special.
think. Or I
Very
think they
Oh,
have
that was
more coming out.
Yeah,
great.
so I think it
Yeah.
started airing on Max on the 29th of August. So that was a special. But before that, the biggest shows were like the opening show of each season,
Mhm.
and there'd be everybody you can imagine, and they always had a street full of Muppets, and the Muppets were working in the newsstand, and there were Muppets just walking by doing things, wheeling that little baby. Who's that little baby?
Natasha.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Oh my gosh,
Natasha.
I haven't seen her in decades. So
Yeah.
Natasha, and Snuffy and Big Bird and Barkley all on the same time. And there was one
Oh
time like
wow.
the Tooth Fairy lost his book, so he didn't know, and that was Joey.
Oh, I
Joey
love
Mas-
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joey
Joey
Mazzarino.
Mazzarino,
Fabulous
Joey.
puppeteer, writer,
another
director.
Yeah,
wonderful person
genius,
too.
so funny. So
He's great.
he lost the book, and we were all going to help him to find it. So each one of us took a different section of Sesame Street to find the book. But one of the funniest things they did, which is very subtle, but unless you really pay attention, they gave Snuffy the roof of 123 Brownstone to look
Oh wow.
for.
Huh.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So they'll say, okay, Snuffy, you take the roof. Big Bird, you're going to go to the park. Barkley, go over there with me. So we're all running off in different places. And then when you cut back to the scene of everyone dispersing, Snuffy is on the stairs, the top of the stairs at 123 Brownstone, going through the doors, and you hear the doors creaking as Snuffy
Oh
makes his way
no.
through the door. And I thought that was funny writing to put Snuffy on the roof.
Marty.
Yeah.
And there was another one where they used a Jimmy, the Jimmy camera that rises up and films from above. For one thing, where we had the park. This was around the corner, and we had the park, and they just did an establishing shot of Muppets playing, or kids, I guess, were playing in the park. There are a few Muppets in there. They came around the corner of the park. Barkley was there with Linda and Bob. They were having sandwiches, and then came around. Ruth Buzzy was on. She had the Whatnot shop near the dance studio around the corner.
Right.
Right.
Prairie Arms Hotel. They had Muppets there in the window, but everyone was on set. But those were always a lot of fun, just to be part of the group. It feels good to be part of the group. Because a lot of times we do a show with 2 or 3 people, and you get to work with them often.
Yeah.
But to be able to work with everybody, a lot of fun.
Right.
Absolutely.
Some of the episodes that Barbara got to appeared. I think you probably might remember those. So like Linda loses Barkley.
Yes. And that's where I pull Oscar out of the garbage can.
Which
Yeah.
I actually got to watch that like literally like
That-
yesterday.
Just watched that last night.
Did you watch that? Yeah. So that one
Yeah.
actually had a little sad section in it, didn't it? Because you were walking. They play the music, it was very sad. And Linda had made up these posters, one of which is here in my living room.
Yeah.
Of the
Wow.
how to contact Linda. They play the little sad music when they're trying to find Barkley. And I was dragging Oscar all over the street. He was flying along behind me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Very funny. And at the end of it, I'm watch that again, because you'll appreciate now you know what was going on. That we'd been doing a lot. It was a very active show. And you do get tired after a while. Think, okay, let's try to get this. And usually 2 or 3 takes, we usually get them. It rarely takes more than that. And I always think the third one is the best one, because by then I can see exactly where my head should be or what I can do a little bit better. But there's one point where the kid, I think, has to pick up a leash and give the leash to Oscar.
Right. Yes.
He squeezes my head between the can and the leash. It's a very awkward. So Oscar can't tell that it's awkward, but when I saw it, it was like no dog should be put through that agony. The leash is pulling his head, and I thought, I've got to straighten this out the right way, and I sort of squeezed my head through the space so it looked fine. And then I had to hear the cat and run off after the cat and pop Oscar out of the garbage can. And you notice that little kid doesn't watch Oscar flying. He watches me. So if you see the eye line should go to where Oscar is, watching him flying down the street. But no, he's watching the puppets on the floor.
Oh my gosh!
Please, oh, please.
Yeah.
But I will. Here's something very few people know about. I saved Rosemary Clooney's life when she was on. Have you seen that when she sings the jazz version of "Can You Tell Me How to Get to Sesame Street"?
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't think so.
Not
But yeah.
so. Type that in and watch that. Because first of all, it's Rosemary Clooney.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, my parents loved Rosemary Clooney, and so I was used to hearing her singing, and as a child. But the on the set with Rosemary Clooney, I was in awe of this. So the idea was
her, yeah, right.
So I was already in the suit when she came on set. So we were, it's one of those ones we just wait to perform, and all I had to do at the end was run in toward the end of the song and run around these kids who were playing ball and go right around them and go up to the back door of Hooper's, and I'd be greeted there by Alan. So that was all I had to do.
Alan.
But by that time, because what is happening, Sesame Street is waking up during the day. So she comes onto the set upstage of Hooper's store, and she sees Hoots, the owl.
Hoots, yeah.
And he's just going to sleep on the fence, and she wants to find out, how to get to Sesame Street. And
right.
So, but they had a lot of problems with Hoots. A lot of things were going wrong with the costume, and one of the things was his toes were stapled to the fence. Sounds painful, but to keep them like he's holding on to the fence.
Yeah.
But every once in a while they go boing and they'd pop up, like.
Oh.
So then they'd do it again. They do it again. So the thing to know is that poor Miss Clooney had very severe arthritis, and it was difficult for her to walk. So where they expected to be filming her walking around the set and walking from character to character to character, and each time she got to someone different, she could sing another version. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? And various things were happening. Maria was up in the windows, shaking things out. She could wave from up there, and other people were greeting her as she walked around. And it was a lovely scene, beautifully thought out too, because it really looked like Sesame Street early morning coming to life. By the end of it, the street is full. There are children playing. There's the big dogs running around, but everybody's there, and then they say, "Miss Clooney, you're on Sesame Street." She says, "Oh, thank you," and that was the end. So, take into the fact that she was in pain with the arthritis, and she really should have been sitting, but she could stand and hold on to the fence or lean against the fence and do the first part with Hoots, but then she was going to have to go someplace else where she could stand or lean against something or hold on to something. And then eventually they get her to the 1, 2, 3 steps, and she's at the step there. So they were having to think it through at the moment where they were expecting to have a camera follow her. They realized they had to do cutaways and so on. So here at the end, she's standing by the steps. They'd already gone through, I think it was, might have been 7 or 8 times that she had to sing the song. And I have to tell you that every time she sang it, it was better. It got better and better, and she was oh my gosh, just to hear her singing a jazz version of Sesame Street. So in the back of Rosemary was may I call her Rosemary? The kids were throwing a ball back and forth, and one kid, the kid who was supposed to catch the ball, dropped it, and the ball bounced and rolled right behind Rosemary Clooney. And I thought, all she has to do, step back 1 step, and she'd be on that ball, and she would go down. And Barkley, comes in out of the blue. You don't see where he's coming from. He arrives. I hit that ball with my paw. It shoots up in the air, goes flying through the air, lands in the hands of the kid who threw the ball. His mouth opens in a perfect O, like, I can't believe that just happened. And Barkley runs around everybody and goes over and greets Mr. Hooper.
Oh my goodness.
And not Mr. Hooper.
That's funny.
Alan at Hooper's store. And it looked to me like Super Barkley to save the day.
It should be an episode where it would be so great if like Barkley, but just him as a superhero trying to.
Yeah, that sounds like a
That could work.
That could work.
Sonia, who I did.
Sonia Mazzano, yeah.
Yeah, so Sonia once wrote a piece that we never did. We haven't staged it yet. She called it Hoop Dreams, where you saw Barkley having dreams of himself as a basketball player, but as a dog basketball. And being able to, I don't know why he was doing that, but he was for some reason just making all his shots, hitting the ball. But it would be funny to have some of his secret life like Snoopy, I mean, he's not really
that's
Snoopy.
great. Right. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, I know like ever since like Sonia's like her time like on Sesame, I know like she's been doing other like things for other like for children's television, like including that she got to created Almost Way.
Yeah, that's a new children's show she created.
Yeah, I'm happy with what she's doing now for creating those amazing shows, which is great. Before you ask your own questions, like Keelin, I want to kind of like just kind of just quickly mention the other episodes because I feel like people who Sesame fans will appreciate. Barkley's birthday and like Barkley won't stop barking, and then where he's like taking a bath, where he doesn't want to take a bath or something like that.
Yes. All right. One thing about the bath. Now, I always hang out with the crew whenever I go there. I'm always hanging out with the crew. The crew, the sound people are amazing. They do all those special sound effects. So picture.
Oh yeah, especially Dick Maitland's. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So Dick Maitland was in the booth when I was in. Finally, they got me in the tub when I didn't want to, and I didn't want to take a bath because last time I got soap in my eyes, and right, and so Linda realized that's what it's all about.
Dang.
So they gave me goggles, and at the end, according to the script, what was supposed to happen was they were supposed to condition me too much, and so I'd be a complete fluff ball after they gave me the bath. But they weren't able to work. That would have been wonderful, right? Just seeing Barkley as a big puff ball. But in that one, I'm sitting in the tub. There's a big kiddie pool. And the scene's going on around me, and I'm, enjoying the water at this point, which is probably, ankle deep or something, but not really there. But I'm assuming ankle deep for Barkley. And but I noticed whenever I picked up my foot and put it down, I hear sploop. There were all these great water sounds, and I began wondering: is he doing that? Is he watching how hard I put my foot down to make the sound? And so I tried a little one. It was a little poof. And a big sploosh. He was absolutely following any movement I made to make that sound. And so I called up to him. I said, "Dick, are you doing this?" And he said, "I'm watching you." So we just started having fun with it. And I thought, look, and that's going on without anyone talking about it. It's just what they do. They do their job, and they have fun with it. And there you are. Now, what was the other one? You said something about Barkley's birthday. Was that the one with Hair Monster where they sing?
It might be.
Birthday?
I think so.
Yes, and there was Linda. I worked out a bit because I realized I loved, by the way, working with Linda Bove. Love.
Oh yeah, I know Linda got to do a lot of episodes with Barkley, including that last episode that we literally just talked about.
She is absolutely wonderful, and the tricky thing, of course, is now I didn't know sign language, but she always had an interpreter there.
Right.
But one thing I noticed is that when she would come on the set, everyone's so nice and she's so nice, and they would all say hello and how are you and be fine. But I realized that no one ever goes up and says, "I had a funny dream last night." That kind of conversation you'd have with anyone else.
Right.
Just because you don't have the facility to converse like that. So with her interpreter, Alan, I would tell her everything or ask her questions like, "How do you come up with a new sign? Like when they invent a microwave, how did you come up with a sign from?" And she would explain it. She would all show that it used to be tap, 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 like you're tapping the thing in, and push, and then little electrical fingers on each side. That became microwave, and now it's just the electrical fingers, and that everyone knows that is a microwave, and now it evolves. But we would just chat, even though my arms were in the dog leg, my head was sticking out of the body. I figured I'm going to just converse with her like anybody else, and I started studying sign as well. But most of the time with her, of course, I'm in the dog suit. But I realized that also because of the difficulty, there were the idea of improving off of the script, which Frank Oz suggested that we do. He said it's not the Bible. The script is a jumping off place, and your job is to make other Muppets laugh. Isn't that a great job?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
imagine making a Muppet laugh. Yeah. So I would, and realizing also that the directors weren't necessarily directing me; they just assumed I would be a dog. I would come up with silly things and then ask, "What do you think about this?" And we test it and say, "Yeah, just throw it in." So Linda had to sign in that happy birthday to Barkley. She was, and Harry Monster. I love Harry Monster. Harry Monster was there, and they were singing "Happy Birthday to You, Happy Birthday to You, Happy Birthday dear Barkley, Happy Birthday to You." So
Right.
I thought there's a cake there, and they also lit a candle, so there's fire there. But I thought the dog is going to get that cake, so it doesn't matter that it's on fire. The dog is going to get that cake. So I suggested to Linda, what if I go for the cake each time? So you're saying, I don't care that you're singing a song to me. So if you're singing "Happy Birthday to You," at that point I'd lunge for the cake, and she'll go sit. She'll do the sign for sit. So it actually came out with "Happy birthday to you, sit. Happy birthday to you, sit. Happy birthday to sit. Happy birthday to you. Here's the cake." Right. So we had that little funny thing that throw in. And in that Jimmy scene, I was talking the Jimmy camera thing. I was telling you when they filmed the whole park, and I was sitting next to Linda and Bob eating sandwiches. I said to Bob, "What if I go for your sandwich? What if I try to beg you to give me your sandwich, and then Linda can catch me at it and make me behave? Like say, Barkley, no, Barkley, stay or sit, or whatever." So we did that. So when the camera came around, I'd be pawing Bob, like just giving it and leaning in to get the meat out of his sandwich, and him about to give it to me, and then Linda interacting. So it's just like little things that you can add into the scene to make it more of a reality. Just to have some fun with it. So,
Nice.
That's always good. But Linda was always up for that. Always up for the fun of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Now I thought of another. When you said one of your favorites, I thought of this one that we did with the other Muppets, with the Muppet Show Muppets, when they. I don't know if you ever saw this. There was an announcement for the ABC merge between Henson and that company to produce new pieces for ABC.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, I think, in '93, maybe '96, something around there. No, it couldn't be '93 because I just started. So maybe '96 or '98. But anyway, they had an announcement for the press at ABC.
Mm-hmm.
No one knew what it was going to be. And I was one of the monsters with John Henson. So I was Dog
cool.
Lion.
Oh, wow.
You know,
Oh, yeah, Dog Lion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and John was Sweetums, and it was with Piggy, and it was with Kermit and Gonzo. And we had the idea being that Kermit was making the announcement that Henson was merging with, or going to produce new shows for ABC. Gonzo arrives thinking that the Muppets have bought ABC. And he took 2 Lear jets to get across town for the meeting. And Kermit is telling him, "We don't own ABC." He says, "Oh, you better tell Piggy that." And he says, "Well, where's Piggy?" And then they open up on a big screen behind Kermit, and she's on camera in Bob Iger's office. Do you know Bob Iger from Disney?
Yeah, CEO.
Okay, so he was when they were merging. He was in charge. He may still be the guy in charge for Disney. So Bob Iger had this huge office overlooking some street. The Muppet crew had rebuilt his entire office down to the wine digest he brought in that morning. And they made sure that was on his desk, which looked just like his desk. And it was evident that he put it on his desk and left for this meeting. Miss Piggy has taken over his office, thinking the Muppets own ABC. And two monsters are destroying the office to her directions. So you have Sweetums tearing the drapes down, and outside the window, by the way, you could see the avenue that was outside his window. They actually had a psych up there with the avenue on it. He's tearing the curtains off and knocks over this big Indian figure that the man had in his office, and it smashes on the floor. I'm painting the woodwork purple with a roller paint, and his hopper painting is right next to that. And Miss Piggy's screaming at me, "Pink! I told you, pink!" And I put the paint down, and then she demands her phone, and I pull up this French phone, and I smash this wooden ship that it took him 2 years to construct. I smash the ship with the phone and sweep it off the desk, slam the phone down. Then I take the hopper painting off the wall and fling it across the room, and Sweetums comes and hangs up a Mona Piggy painting. Then there's a big bowl of fruit, and there's all these papers. I'm shoving all the fruit in my mouth. I throw all his papers around the room. But all this is going on while she's having a conversation with Kermit in the actual ABC room, right, where all the newspaper people, all the business people. And Bob Iger has gone pale. And Kermit's saying, "We don't own ABC." And Piggy says, wait, what do we own? Manny's Grill? He says, no. International House of Pancakes? No. And he says, no, we're just going to make shows for ABC. Oh, then I can keep the office. And then all of a sudden the police start pounding on the door saying, Miss Piggy, you have to let us in there. You have to open up. And she's like, okay, hunker down, boys, and send out for a pizza. It's going to be a long night. You'll never take me alive, copper. So
oh my gosh.
At that point, it has me grab the swivel chair off the desk and slam it on this man's desk. And Frank had said, if you can manage to get the wheels this way, and I know it's hard to see in that, but you'll have an eye hole through this part of the chair, and I'll have an eye hole through that side. And the chair landed accidentally, but perfectly where he wanted it. And we hunkered down behind the desk, hiding from the police. So, and then all of a sudden the satellite feed fizzes out, and Kermit goes, "Well, sorry about your office, Mr. Iger. I hope we can still work together." And Bob Iger had a smile on his face, but he wasn't laughing. And he just gets up and goes, I didn't know they were going to do that. Any questions? So the whole rest of the interview by the press, he's in shock because his entire office has just been destroyed by Muppets. And later on, when the conference was getting a little, Frank thought, a little dull, need a little action, Piggy showed up again. They were able to pop in when they wanted to, just to keep it moving, keep it light. And we had the shot of Miss Piggy standing saying, "Listen, I got to go down to 14th Street and return some wigs." But you see Piggy in the forefront, and it looked like a tornado had gone through his office, and there's just devastation everywhere. And it wasn't until the end of the conference that they lead him into the studio, and he sees the joke, and that's when he realized it wasn't his office that was just destroyed.
There's a couple more episodes that I just saw. It was kind of like, I mean, it's kind of cool that they got to do it though. Like where there's an episode where Telly actually pretends to be a dog, and then one where Baby Bear actually becomes a dog, and then Barkley was like kind of like
confused.
No, there was one I was thinking of with Zoe and Barkley. I think it was the same. I think Zoe wanted to pretend to be a dog.
Zoe became a dog. Yep.
Huh.
She became a dog. And that's something I always think about, because Zoe and Barkley would play a lot together, and I thought, how long are her legs? Because her head is up there by my head. And I think she must have the longest legs in the world to be a little girl. But she must have like 3-foot long legs. But yeah, there were a few times. Who else was it? A la peanut butter sandwich. It was
Mumford, yeah.
Yeah. I know that was like the first episode you got to do as Barkley, and it was about Mumford.
Oh, that's right. Because
personas.
Jerry Nelson was a dog, but who turned into the dog? It was somebody. Yeah, that's right. He turned someone else into a dog, and then I was playing with that dog. But that
Yeah,
was
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that episode's kind of like a switching type of like episodes. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really
yeah.
good. Yeah.
That's right. But it is fun to have a playmate there.
Yeah.
There was one episode where all the Muppets were talking about how Barkley helped them, and Barkley was asleep through the whole thing, except when they remember what he did for them, and then you go back to you go back to that old vaudeville joke where Baby Bear was asking, he was trying to come up with something. The word would be roof, but I don't know if he was writing a poem or what he was trying to figure out. Something that word, he couldn't think of it, and Barkley kept going roof, roof, and Baby Bear couldn't figure it. He said, "Quiet, Barkley, I'm trying to think." And I go roof, roof. He was trying to get that name, and then he finally realized roof. That's right, Barkley. Thank you. But it's the closest Barkley ever came to speaking. But in that episode, the couple of cool things. One was that one of the directors had a lot of difficulty. Sometimes when I worked with the smaller Muppets, how to get Barkley, just like I said before with Zoe, how do you frame a big dog with a little Muppet? How do you get them two together? And in one of the when they take lunch breaks, I would run around on the set in my doggy feet just to keep my lungs going and my arms limber. And I tried going up and down the stairs to the 1, 2, 3 brownstone, and I found I could do that. I could go up easily. Be a little unsure coming down, I think, because the balance would be different. But going up was fine. And I realized that the top step is perfectly Barkley size. So I mentioned that to the director, and I said, Barkley, because she was thinking if Barkley's asleep, you wouldn't see him because he's lying down there on the floor. Here are the adults talking, and so Barkley would be down by their knees, so you wouldn't really see him unless they gave a special camera shot to Barkley. So, but he'd never be in full view all the time. So I suggested the top step, and that's when they realized that Barkley could lie up there on the top step, and I did. So I was in full view for the whole story. And people could refer to me, and people would know who they're talking about. And then I'd be down on the floor for working with the other Muppets. So that was fun. The other cool thing was, like I said, I always hang out with the crew whenever I'm on the set. They could have made the cake. There's a big milk bone cake that they make Barkley
right.
in thanks. And they could have made it out of styrofoam. They made it out of cake and fondant, and coated the entire. Now this cake was, I'm trying to figure it out. It had to be 6 feet long.
Wow.
Maybe,
oh my gosh.
A foot and a half
Dang.
wide, but looked just like a big brown milk bone with Barkley written on top of it in icing. And they baked the cake as thanks to Barkley. And then we all ate the cake after we finished shooting it. But that was, they went to that extra, did that huge extra bit. That's the kind of people they are.
That's lovely. And of course, because also doing scenes with Elmo, because I know Barkley also got to appear a bit on Elmo's World.
Yeah, the cats,
with
dogs, and pets.
Yeah.
You got to work with Michael Jeter and Bill.
With Michael Jeter and Bill Irwin,
Irwin, yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Bill, and I just seen Bill
Where's
Irwin.
Michael Soul?
Oh my, yes, nice guy. And the although I didn't get to work with. I worked in the costume with him, so it's sort of odd because I didn't really meet him. I was just in the suit, and I was doing what I had to do, but I could see his kneecaps. But with Bill Irwin, I got to work a little bit more with him. And I had just seen him off Broadway in this wonderful show that he was doing about there's an actor named Fox in the 1800s who was the first actor to make $1 million. And he played Humpty Dumpty, and he traveled around the country playing this character. And it was a play that he had written himself about this actor. And I had just seen it a couple days before I got to work with him. So I was talking to Bill because at one point he's pretending to be a cat, and I come in and I hear the cat, and so I think he's a cat, and I start chasing him, and then
Right.
they tell me that I should jump up at him. So at one point I had the head off, so I could warn him. I want you to be aware that when I jump, this is how I can see. I can only see through the mouth, because I'll lose sight of you. But also, my front legs are metal crutches, so I didn't want to injure him. Because he looks like a big fluffy dog. So if you think that those are dog legs coming up there, that's one thing. But if you are aware that there's hard metal inside that leg, get hurt.
Yeah.
So I was just instructing. Somebody was taking pictures while I was doing that. It was Jim Martin who was directing it, and he said, "Here you are giving directions to Bill Irwin," as if,
Oh, that's funny.
But,
such a great segment for Barkley to be part of those type of pet related episodes. That's great.
Yeah, and on the
Yeah.
subject of Elmo Kevin clash, what a great and again,
what a
you know,
great performer
yeah.
Kevin is. Our previous guest, Kevin, he's just the best. He really is.
absolutely. But
And
now
he's
have
still
you
doing
talked to
things with
Ryan as
Henson
well?
now.
Yeah, we talked to Ryan. Yeah, Ryan's awesome. Doing a wonderful
Yes, I
job
did.
with that character.
Oh yeah, same with
I
Ryan
know. I
too.
just
Yeah.
worked with Ryan and his Elmo
Mhm.
recently. I think we
Yep.
talked about that, Jake, the other day with where
Yeah,
Barkley comes in. And he says,
yeah. Which we will talk about.
Yeah,
Which we will talk about more of that.
exactly.
aspect later on.
So, Keelin, I know you have some of your own questions that you want to ask.
No, not really.
"Nothing, Keelin."
No.
Nothing at all.
Not really. No, I do. I have a few,
Okay.
but the main one. Well, I'll explain why the reason why I'm here is but I'll ask my question first. But the main one I really wanted to ask you, which because I was kind of thinking about it, and I was just like, what should I ask him? And all I kept thinking about was how do you get inside? And you explained like that you always wanted to be a dog, but
Yeah.
how do you get inside of the mindset of trying to be a dog? Because I've been trying to figure that out. Besides, I guess you could. I guess my assumption is you can like just watch dogs and just how they
Oh,
react.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question, because that's really a great question. So, yeah, it's odd because at this point it's sort of natural to me. But here's the thing that a rule of thumb. I realized there are words that I would recognize and words I wouldn't recognize. So whenever I was in the costume and somebody mentioned my name, I would think they're calling me or talking to me, and I would throw the focus back to them. They did tell me, your job is just to suck focus. That Barkley is just supposed to be up there being a dog and take the focus, and we'll work the story around you. But because I'm so much of a stage actor, my impulse is to throw the focus where the story is, right? So that's just my own actor impulse. But so with Barkley, I was realizing I could therefore be distracted by whatever I might see something that's of interest. I'm not quite sure what's coming up down the street, or I have an itch someplace, or what is that on the floor? I'm going to go check that out. But there are words I would know, like walk, park, Barkley.
Yeah.
There were signs I knew, but other than that, I had to erase conversation, so I couldn't be part of a conversation. Okay, so here is something really weird that we did once. Might have seen this before. Someone suggested I go and talk to the writers and give them ideas for writing, because they had written themselves out pretty much with Barkley at one point. So I went with a whole bunch of ideas. One of them was to work with Julie Andrews.
Ooh.
I wanted them to have Julie Andrews
Oh wow.
confused as to why some of the Muppets speak and some of the Muppets are animals. And so she's going to work with all the ones who can't speak to teach them the alphabet to the tune of, or sort of, do it close, to the tune of "Do a Deer," right? Oh. And then it would eventually evolve into the thing where she'd be running all around doing the choreography of the movie, and standing there with her hands pointed in each direction where the statues are and the various Muppets and stuff taking. But you'd have all the chickens, the sheep, Barkley, that guy. Remember the guy who carried the garbage can who never spoke?
Bruno.
Oh, Bruno. Yeah.
Bruno,
Yes.
yeah.
Right.
So he never spoke, right? So you could
Yep.
have him. So anyone who didn't speak could be in the show, but especially Barkley. This is going to be on my wish list because I thought at the end I could just give her a big cuddle. But yeah, they never worked that one out. But in all that, in those suggestions I came up with, I forget why I went off on Julie Andrews. I thought, wait, what was I telling you about? That came up with a suggestion for. Oh yeah, I said we've already done sit and stay with Barkley with Linda, so that when they're teaching sign language to the kids, the dog signs you see would be sit and stay. I said, but what we don't know is Linda at home. There may be more signs that Barkley understood. Like she might be able to sign, Barkley, can you go in the kitchen and get me a Kleenex? Not the white one, the pink one. Who knows what Barkley understands? Just like more signs that you could teach kids. So I thought it'd be fun to explore what Barkley understands at home, where out on the street he only gets sit and stay. Maybe run or go or something like that. So here's the story. Do you remember the one with Telly having a disguise kit? And he was trying to disguise himself for so no one would know who he was.
Oh my gosh! I mean,
Yeah.
speaking of
Yeah.
Telly, like Mari Robinson is such a wonderful,
and Telly is so funny. But
yes.
Marty says hello. By the way, I told him that we were gonna have you on. He says hello.
Marty is wonderful. I love Marty. Yeah, so
great friend of ours.
Telly.
He's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And of course Snuffy too.
Yes. Oh yeah. So here's
and Brian Young too.
Telly. He's putting a clown costume on. He's putting a mustache on. He's doing all these things it's his master disguise kit. But everyone says, "Oh, hi, Telly," and he's getting very depressed, right? Because everyone knows who he is. So,
as he does, yes.
In this scene, Barkley's on the stoop, right, sitting on that top step that I told you I could fit on. Linda's next to him. There's some kids around us. There's Gordon and Maria, I think.
Roscoe.
And they realize that Telly's upset because we all know who he is. So Maria comes up with the idea. When Telly comes down the street, let's pretend we don't know who he is. So Gordon signs that to Linda. So he signs but speaking at the same time. When Telly comes, pretend you don't know who he is, so he'll feel better. And so she signs it to Barkley. Now think about that. So I said to the director, "That's a concept. Are you telling me that Barkley would understand that when Telly comes, I should pretend not to know who he is? Would I understand that?" And the director said, "We've established he knows sign language." I mean, okay. So it was the most intelligent dog in the world. When Telly comes down in disguise, pretend you don't know who he is, so that we can make him feel better. Okay, gotcha. I'm with you. Okay, good. Okay, I'll do that. So Barkley did. He pretended he didn't know Telly. Telly would smell the same. I think Barkley would know. Barkley would know. Yeah, I don't think.
Oh, that's great.
Concepts.
That's
so anyway, that gives you an idea of getting into the mindset of Barkley. Is that when sometimes I get there and sometimes I have to leave my concepts behind because the director might need me to know more than a dog could know. But most of the time, we're pretty much able to keep him in a real live dog, and that's the important thing I think with him. He's one of the few real animals on the show. So it's basically know what you hear everything, but you only react to some things, and you know what it is you're looking for. I just did a scene with Felix. I don't know. Like, did you see the bake sale yet? A little scene with Felix.
I saw the
cake.
I saw the one that came out recently that had Telly and Snuffy and a couple other Muppets together. I don't know if the one with Barkley came out yet, but
This is the one. This is the big special one with Denise Nicole Brown. Was that it? Denise.
Oh yeah. That was the one that came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
with
couple
Yvette.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's like an hour-long special or something for to raise money for the schools. I think, for
Right.
the library.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
with working with Felix, and Brian's a very good improver. I mean, you can come up with like something silly and he'll go with it. So the way the script was written was he's talking about he's had I guess 2-tiered cake in his hand. It's a little tiny chicken. It's a cake he's baked, and he's talking about having to run a relay race that Monster has take off of the Great British Bake Off, but added a relay race to it. You have to run with your section and not destroy it. But I'm supposed to be off stage, and then I come in to get the cake that he's holding, and he says, "No, Barkley, this cake isn't for you." And I say something like, "Woof woof woof," and then he runs off. And I said, "What if I just come in while you're doing this line, and you're aware the dog is behind you, looking at your cake?" Because I know you all have dogs. I don't know where you know what dogs
Used to,
are like
yeah.
when they want.
Yes, I do.
Willing you to give them the food.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you,
Yep.
I would like that. So you are in my power. So, so I said, what if I just get in and you are aware that I'm over your shoulder, and you turn and look at me, and I just go, woof. And you say, "No, Barkley, that's not for you." And then I demand it, with a stronger woof. And he says, "No, Barkley, this cake." And he says, "I'll be very firm. No, this is." He said, "Can you cry?" I said, "Can I cry?" So he says, "No, Barkley, this is not for you." And so I go, and he says, "Oh," but this is his improv line, which I think is absolute genius when you think about it. He says, "Okay, Barkley, just one lick, and we won't tell anybody." I love the idea. He's letting the dog lick the cake, and then he's going to serve it to people. I think, oh, okay.
Right?
So, yep. So I licked the cake, and then I licked him to thank him. He started laughing, so I licked him some more. If I could talk, I was going to add, I think I prefer chicken to cake, but I didn't do that. But anyway, I just contacted Ryan because I came upon this thing on Ripley's Believe It or Not from like the 30s. It was on Turner Classic Movies on a Saturday.
Okay.
They showed this chicken. There's a sad part here. The mother dog had been killed somehow. They don't get into that. They had 5 puppies were left, and this chicken took in the puppies, and she just got them all under her feathers and just sort of covered them and mothered them, which was amazing when you think about that. And as the puppies grew, they continued to treat her as their mother, and she continued to treat them as her children. And it was something so sweet about that. And so I saw that, and this was after the scene I did with Felix. So I wrote to Andrew Moriarty and Ryan. I said, "Just saying that this chicken adopted these dogs. So if Felix is looking for a dog," and Ryan loved the idea, but I thought there's something really Muppety humor of that tiny, tiny little chicken owning or adopting a gigantic sheepdog.
Right?
To me, that cracks me up. I know there's stories you can come up with. It's just such a funny idea. I'd love to work with, and it's just a way to work with Ryan again because he's just so funny. But he was the one who did that Muppet underneath Barkley with a little when Barkley sat down on him. The TikTok that came out last week.
Oh yeah.
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 Okay.
Just see his little arm sticking up, going, "Little help."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Oh, so funny.
Do you have any other questions, Keelin?
I do have a couple more because I don't want to take up anybody else's time. But I heard a rumor about this. Does Barkley actually have eyes underneath all that fur?
Barkley does have eyes. Is that a rumor? Yeah, it's he has the most gorgeous eyes. They're black and they're like a many-faceted button.
Oh,
So
okay.
okay.
if you saw them, the reflection from the light on the button is amazing. And I was doing it for years before I knew that he had eyes. And then once I realized, because there's the shape of where the eyes are, there's the rounded
Yeah.
part of the head, but you never see the eye itself. And there was one time I was at the vet with when Gina was a vet, and she was
Right,
checking his
yeah.
eyes. And later on, I noticed that she doesn't. I mean, I can't tell when I'm in there, but they never lift the fur up. They're checking his eyes to make sure he was healthy, but they checked through the fur. They didn't expose the eyes. I don't know. No one's ever told me anything about the eyes, so I don't know whether there's a reason they don't show them. But they are beautiful. So I'm always thinking that if the fur ever moved, like while I was running, you would see the dog eyes inside there.
Right.
Good question.
Yeah,
Good question.
Yeah, well, only because I asked that, only because there's a shape that kind of forms around the fur, which I kind of looked at. But then again, you see, like, on the plush toy that came out like a few years ago, they do put eyes on him, and you can actually see it on him, and that was kind of got me thinking. I was like, why do they do that? Because he doesn't have eyes, does he?
I'm gonna go look at that plush toy. It's right over. Where's that plush toy?
I got one right beside me, but yeah.
Do
Same.
you?
Yeah, I did.
All right. Is it the one where he's sitting?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I'm gonna look at his.
Yeah, it was
This
by
part.
the Sesame Place theme
Oh,
park.
there they are. Yeah.
Sesame Place
Oh my God!
does a
Look how
great
cute.
job
I
doing
never
them.
even looked. Look at those cute eyes. I never even saw those. That's new to me.
Oh my goodness!
They're beautiful, aren't they?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
You see, you never know where you're going to learn something. You've got to stay open on it. You're going to learn something every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for telling me that. Yes,
No.
but you're right. He does have eyes.
Okay.
And
Good to know.
I'm looking at.
Yeah, Barkley has
Good for you
eyes.
to know.
Let's go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else you got for me?
Well, this is gonna be you might have to cut this out, Jake. But I was gonna, and the reason why I was on here because if they wanted me to come on since Barkley's kind of making a big resurgence back into the show though, and this was totally coincidence. I didn't do this, but until they started showing all the TikToks and stuff like that. But I currently I had an idea when I was in bed one night, and I just kind of just stood up and said, I gotta make a Barkley. And
News.
and now I'm currently because I go to a lot of Comic Cons, and I just started working more on the head though. I don't have really anything else finished besides like the front and back feet though.
Are you planning on going to Comic-Con as Barkley?
Yes, I am.
Are you really?
Yes,
Oh,
I
that's
am.
awesome. That
I
is
am
awesome.
planning to do that.
He went earlier this year. Jake and I met him in person at GalaxyCon in Richmond. He cosplayed as Jim Henson and had his own Ernie. It was amazing.
And
really
then,
was.
and then a year before,
his own rubber
he
ducky.
he did his he has his Big Bird.
Which one? Best in Show? A
costume.
couple years ago.
Yeah.
It was in 2022 when Best in
22.
Show, yeah. So yeah, for that
Wait,
though.
have you been to the New York Comic-Con?
No, I've only been to because I'm from Virginia, so I've been to this thing called Richmond GalaxyCon. And I've never really been to any cons outside of state besides they had a North Carolina one. I've been to that though. But no, I need to travel more to these cons and just go to them. But never been to the New York one. Never.
Were you going to walk on all fours as Barkley?
Yes, I was. I was going to show you afterwards. Because I do have some modified crutches that that I use the hacksaw to make for my back can be straight too.
Yes,
and
but how are you going to survive a con in the costume?
I know.
That's the mission. I've done Big Bird.
That's the main concern.
Well,
yeah.
but he's walking on his hind legs. I mean, your arm has to be up in the air. The blood runs out of your hand, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I did have to take it down. But yeah.
Yeah, that's noble. I did see a bunch of Martians one year at New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep,
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They were great. But that's a great idea. But yes, you're perfectly able to put eyeballs in, but you technically you don't see them because they've never shown them, but only you would know.
Well, no, I can't do it now because I put the fur in front of the face, so it's impossible now. So I just can't do anything. So and and somebody told that, and I was like, thanks a lot. Now I can't add that little thing. That's awesome. That's really awesome. Thanks a lot.
Oh my gosh.
No, but but the real question was, because if I'm going to do Barkley, what's what's the method to your madness to stay stay hydrated or stay very energetic?
You don't get to do that. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to breathe. It's to stay hydrated. Yeah, you need a handler. I have the best. I have there's oh my gosh, Lars McLean. There's
oh my gosh, so talented.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Michelle. Did you ever meet Laurent?
Who?
Laurent?
No.
It's Laurent. He did the same thing when I first started. Jason Weber, of course. Those from the shop, but those are the people who keep me alive. One of the things for the heat issue inside, and this was solved by Misha. Because they this is very funny, but they think it makes sense. Whenever you're in a big costume, someone is given a fan, which is a piece of paper, like a Chinese fan, just like a little circle on a stick, and they wave it at you, and that is to cool you down and give you air, and it doesn't really work. It cannot possibly reduce the heat inside Snuffy or inside Barkley, or I did Bozark the elephant. I don't know Bozark the elephant. But these little fans, and they wave them at you. Now, I mentioned that to Misha, and he said, "Oh no, you need an electrical fan." And I said, "Well, I don't think they have one." He says, "Well, he was a Ninja Turtle, right? You probably know all about that."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he said, "What we do is you take a heating fan, and you take the heating coil out, and then it blows air, but it doesn't blow heat." So I told them that. They did it instantly, and then they just come on the set and then shove this in my mouth, and it dries me off. It gives me air, and it refreshes me, and I'm able to go into the shop much faster than I would be if I was just having a little paper fan waved at my face. So that's the heat thing. The water thing, somebody then brings you a bottle with a straw, and they'll insert it through the mesh near your eyeballs, and you've got to work your mouth around that, and then you'll get the water, and then you suck the water yourself. Don't let them squeeze it, because you'll end up with it all over you. And you just you suck the water out of the bottle that way. So that's the way to get the water and air. Okay.
Yeah, because I was thinking about putting maybe they have like battery powered fans you could put in like mascot costumes, and I was thinking maybe putting one in there. I don't know how that would exactly work. Or wear one of those they call it like a portable air conditioner, but it's one you wear around your neck, and it's like two fans, and you point it up at you though, and you turn it on, and it's a rechargeable one, and maybe wearing something like that inside there, but the heat is not going to really work its way out, probably.
Right. So, and the problem, they've thought about things over the years of like a cooling vest. But there was never room in it. It looks like it's a roomy costume, but it's not really inside. So I'm in there, and then I'm wearing over me. There's a mesh kind of thing attached to the fur. But between the mesh and the fur, there's more space than there is between the mesh and me. So there wasn't room for a cooling vest to be put in there. There's no room for a fan. There's no room for a monitor. And at one point, they thought they would do these eyeglasses where I would wear those, and through one of them I would see, straight ahead, and through the other I would see what was being filmed. But that didn't come about either, because there's no space for the eyeglasses. But since you're constructing it, you can probably work around that and figure out, where you put your fan. Because especially if you're going to be at a Comic-Con with thousands of people, and they're all going to be. You're going to have somebody with you, right?
Yeah, I gotta have like either a friend or somebody I gotta pay to be like, hey, just walk me around the whole place and make sure I don't die in here.
One thing that always happens is that the people who want to pet Barkley think that they need to pound him for him to feel it. So yeah, I mean the Cathedral of St. John, the very Reverend Dean just gave me clouts in the head during one of the memorial service. I went over to visit. It was John Stone's memorial, and I saw his little sad grandchildren over there in the front row. So I figured they needed a dog. So I trotted over there, and then I figured, I'll stop by and visit the new dean of the cathedral. He said, pounding on the top of my head, like wham, 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 wham. Like, is this what you do to your dog? So he's probably thinking, oh, he's such a big dog, I have to really hit him, you know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you need to have somebody with you saying, please don't pound on the dog. Take care of yourself. Send me a picture. I want to see this.
Yeah, I got it. Well, actually, I got it right in front of me though right now. So I was looking at it.
Wow, if only we had something like Zoom, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure I'll send you pictures to you so you'll see them or whatever.
Yeah. But,
and at some point we'll figure it out. Like if I ever get it up and running on any of these computers, I'll let Jake know. Maybe we can all hook in and just have a visit. Just say,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
Sure.
How you doing in there? I'm dying here.
So
we're killing the dog here. You're killing the dog. So, but there's nothing. But when you have somebody looking after you, and like, look, Lars is so good. She's like a, I don't know how to describe her. She's like my dead mother. He's got to rest now. Bruce, go over, lie down. He's got to have a rest now. And people are coming in to talk to Barkley because they're so excited. He's just telling people off, saying, "No, we're closing. All right, we're closing the door now. He can't be talking." I think, yes, I can. I can talk to him. No, you need to drink some water. Making sure she is making sure I'm going to survive the day. You know, it's great.
Right.
oh my gosh.
Oh, that's great.
That's my fault. So so that's your questions, Keelin. I just want to ask before we keep
that
going.
was about it though. So like I just wanted some tips and just see what works and what doesn't work and what can I do to not die pretty much though.
well, what sounds good, Keelin.
Yeah, okay.
We're just trying to keep you alive at this point.
So you probably don't want to be out on the floor with a fan shoved in your mouth. So you probably want to find spaces where you can be private.
It'll be a little hard, but I think I can find a couple places because you really just can't ruin it for for some of the kids. I mean, like the adults is fine, but I'm just thinking about because there's a lot of kids that go to these things too, and they want to dress up though too. So I need to find somewhere private. Like I don't know if the bathroom would work.
Probably not the bathroom.
Yeah,
probably not
we have those moments like that. Yeah.
So I need to find like a corner somewhere to do it. But yeah.
Maybe you can make friends with somebody who's representing their books or their artwork there. If they have like a curtain up around their booth or something, and just say, all right, I'm going to be coming by here as Barkley. Do you mind if I come behind here and take the head off for a minute? Or, something like that might work too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I just hide under your booth?
Like, please.
Do you mind if I hide here?
Yeah, just hide here for a few minutes.
Right.
I don't care who you are. Can I just please just sit here for
right.
Along that thought with not ruining it for the kids, in the parade, which is the longest time usually that I'm in the suit from like 8:30, 8:45 till maybe 10:30 if we're one of the first floats that gets to Macy's. With the heavier helmet, it had a habit, as I sweat inside, it had a habit of riding back onto my neck. And so I worked out a thing with Alan, from the Hooper store. Alan would take the helmet and pull it forward. And for him to do that, he'd have to reach inside, sort of get a hold of not inside, but I mean, he'd have to feel inside the fur. He'd have to get a hold of the helmet, and I would rotate my head in the correct direction to get it more with the weight toward my forehead instead of the back of my head. And several times during the parade route, I would go to Alan and pretend like I'm a dog waiting for a cuddle, and he would, scratch my ears like he's pretending to scratch my ears, and then he'd take a hold of the head, and we'd just do that in front of the audience, but they wouldn't really know that he's adjusting the head so that it's more comfortable on the dog. We try to make it look like he's just petting the dog. So you always want to maintain, once you're in costume, you always want to maintain the real dog.
Yeah, so far I got a bike helmet in there. That does that. And been the great thing. I don't know is it like a bike helmet or is it like a football helmet you have inside there?
When I had the last one was a football helmet with handles on it, which really helped to pull the head on. And then a strap under that, the chin strap that tightens it so that you can really support the weight of the helmet on your, not the weight of the helmet, the movement of the helmet with your chin. That holds it sort of in place where it is. This new one doesn't have handles in it. It is more like a bike helmet. The ones that look more like a World War II kind of, like a Panzer helmet.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
those ones. There are no handles on them. They're just sort of there's foam inside to fit it to your head, and the gray top. So that's what it's built on now.
Okay.
I found the ones with the handles on it very useful because you just pick it up upside down with the handles and then pull it onto your head and then tuck it in. Now it's more people feed it onto me as I don't have anything to pull it down onto my own head.
No worries at all. But thank you for asking those questions, Keelin. And I know we're just not gonna ask the question about like songs or not. I mean, I'm not gonna go way too much on it, of course. But I definitely have to mention a song, "Walking a Dog." That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
There's a story about that one. There was
really.
Yeah, there is. We've done it a couple times, and the first time we did, there were dogs all over the place. I don't know if you saw that one. The whole street and around the corner was filled with dogs. And I think I was staying at that time with with Sonia.
Yeah, and
that was the same one with Gabi when Gabi was doing the sleepover with Elmo. Sonia and Emilio took me out walking, and they sang "Walking the Dog," and the street was full of dogs. Now in that episode, there was a French Mastiff who's gigantic. That's the kind of dog from Turner and Hooch. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Yeah.
Jaws, like Jaws, you wouldn't believe.
Probably.
And I had met that dog in the park because I would take the vet near me takes in maybe actually a lot of pit bulls, abused animals, and I would help re-socialize them and find out what their issues are and find out what they need work on, or maybe they don't. Maybe they just look ferocious, but they're okay. I find most of the pit bulls want to be in your lap, just want to be lap dogs, but they look like Monstro, the whale, So while I was walking these various dogs, I met this huge French Mastiff, and they were looking for a big dog for that song. So I asked this lady if she was interested, and they'd get paid for it, and she was, and I hooked them up, and they hired her. So I noticed this dog, once I'm in the Barkley costume, was awfully interested in the fuzzy aspect of Barkley's feet, because I don't smell like a dog, so he's going to think of me not as a dog, but as a big chew toy. And so I was trying to point that out to Lisa, who's one of the directors, and she was very busy. We couldn't feel about that right now. And we're behind schedule. Blah, 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 blah. So I'm waiting, hoping that everything's going to turn out okay. So standing there in the costume with the tail on, the head was off. I've got my front legs wearing the body, and I've got the bottom legs on. And luckily, there was a window to my right, and there was an empty store that was always empty around the corner. So I'm standing in front of that window, and the French Mastiff is behind me, right? So I see French Mastiff lunge at my rear end, and I suddenly swivel my hips forward as the jaws go snap behind my butt. So I was saying,
Oh, wow.
Lisa,
Oh
this
my
is what I was
gosh.
talking about. So, and I'm thinking, I got that dog that $100. I got that dog a job, and it's trying to bite me in the butt. But that was next time you see, walking the dog with Maria singing it. That's what
Yeah,
happens
or
when you go see
one.
that friend.
Yeah. Right.
The other one was with Bob walking me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's when
gosh.
I turned around and I asked, "Am I your dog?" And he said, "I guess so." I said, "Since when?" I guess today. He's singing "My Doggy and Me." I'm thinking, "You own me now?" I mean, what
Oh man.
Oh man, but yeah, I love that song. It's so great.
Yeah.
It is a nice song.
Absolutely.
And the rule is, just so you know, like when you're over at the Comic-Con, you can sniff at hydrants, but you're not allowed to linger.
Mm,
Right. Yeah.
right.
Right.
Notice they walk the
Absolutely.
dog, but the dog doesn't do anything about it. He just walks, sniffs, and that's part of
Exactly.
the thing. They go sniff, 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 sniff. So
Mhm.
I can sniff the lamppost, the step, whatever. I can sniff, but I can show my interest, but I can't do anything else about it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Don't linger.
It's
Right.
no longer. Why was you saying that? Just about Bob is just bitches owning him, stuff like that. You didn't know
Oh,
that.
Bob.
I was thinking because Barkley really doesn't wear a collar, or he used to, but he doesn't anymore. But I was thinking of putting a little detail. We're making one out of foam clay and just carving it like Barkley on the front, and then maybe putting on the back maybe carving it just if lost, please return to Linda at 123 Sesame Street. Just like a little detail like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he
Right.
does sometimes wear a harness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's back when the leash laws really came into effect here in New York, and they were really, they got their finger on the pulse there. So they, for a few years, were concerned but then the issue was, well, can Barkley, once they weren't using Linda anymore, once the cutbacks happened in that show, they didn't have a lot of shows for Linda, and so the thing is, well, then what do they do with Barkley, and who would be walking Barkley? And you need him on a leash. You can't be walking off a leash, and kids shouldn't approach dogs that aren't on leashes and that kind of thing. The nice thing was when we got to the cake sale, Barkley was able to just be with the kids. No one was walking him. He was one of the Muppets on the street, just going up and greeting them and trying to eat the cake. But they didn't have the leash necessarily. But I know that at one point, especially because New York was cracking down on dogs off of leashes, and I think that's when they started putting Barkley in a leash. But he didn't have a collar. No.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Definitely.
He has eyes.
Yes.
Oh, here's something. I don't know if you saw this, but there's a new Sesame Street comic book. You see that?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember seeing
Came
it
out last week.
Yeah.
It's yeah. And on page 2 and on page 4 is a big Barkley. They drew Barkley in there. So it's nice.
Yeah, Barkley.
Thinking of Barkley. Yeah.
Yeah, Jake. Because that's what I was asking you. Yeah, Jake. Because that's what I was asking you because you sent me that picture and I was just like, oh, you got the comment, but I was like, well, let me know just how it is, and it was just like, it was like, oh no, Bruce sent me that picture. I was like, oh, dang it. I was like, all
right. Yeah, I can take a picture of the page and send it
to you. All right, we'll do.
Yes. Yes.
But I was very pleased because most of the time, for a long time, Barkley wasn't in any books. The early books he was, right? And
I mean, ever since he kind of out of the show for a bit. Yeah, he kind of
before wasn't. That, like way back, like in the early 70s and 80s when he first started. I wasn't doing it then,
right?
But he was Elmo. No, he was Ernie's dog for a while.
Right. Yeah.
He was Big Bird's baby puppy for a while. They always had him with one of the Muppets, but he was in a lot of them. And then in the when the books called Picture Backs came out with soft cover square books, lots of pictures. Barkley wasn't there. And that's about the time when I started, and all my nieces were saying, "How come you're not in any of the books?" I said, "I don't know." So I mean, no one told me, but I was feeling bad for Barkley. and I finally met one of the guys who illustrated Joe Matthew, Mathieu.
Yeah, Joe Matthew. Yeah.
Yeah. And I asked him. I said, my nieces would buy them, so you could really sell a lot more books if you had Barkley in there. And he said, I don't know how to draw him. So I drew him for him. I said, here's how you draw him. This is what he looks like. So I drew him, and he said, I see it now. I promise you that Barkley will be in every book I draw now. And there was one book he did right after that where Barkley was on every single page.
Oh,
said,
wow.
Thank you. I think it was Around the Corner. And Joe drew. So he kept to his word and put Barkley all over them. So anyway, yeah, it's terrible. I don't know why I have to bear the brunt of that, but relatives keep calling me and saying, "Why are you in the Elmo Peek and Look book?" I don't know. Take it out on me. I don't know.
I don't know if you saw this, but I actually drew a picture of Barkley with Tango, like doing like a bunch of stuff. I don't know if you sent that to him, Jake, or not yet though.
No, I didn't. I have to do that.
Yeah.
Of course, one of the things I haven't done yet. Dang it. That'll be my homework for tonight.
Right. So
yeah, just do it. Yeah.
Just send me that. You know what's nice at the Comic-Con last year? Joe Hennis. Do you know him?
Oh yeah,
Joe. He's great. I love Joe. He's the best.
Yeah. So Joe had a panel. It was a strange kind of thing, but it was Muppety, which made it all the best. One of the last things to do at the Comic-Con on the last day, and it was he had 4 or 5 people drawing challenges. So there were people in the audience, and then Joe would send out, all right, we need you to draw. All right, one was the boss of Earl Sinclair on dinosaurs, and some of them would know who that looked like, what he looked like. Some were just guessing, and they would all just sort of draw what that would happen. And then we'd get to see all the drawings. Or what about, and people would call out from the audience, draw so and so. Okay, we want you to draw so and so in this situation, and then they would draw that. So they were, and then Joe noticed I was in the audience, and so he pointed out, and I was trying to hide behind chairs and stuff, and being shy and quiet. And I said, so then people are like sneaking down the aisle to take a picture of me sitting there trying not to be seen. But Joe said, well, let's do Barkley. And saying, oh, we love Barkley. Everyone on the panel.
Oh,
so and then one of Dave, his last name's Hulteen, Hulteen, drew a really good Barkley. And then at the end, they gave all these drawings away to the audience. And turns out all the Barkleys were taken. And so they felt badly that I didn't get a picture of one of their drawings. So Dave went home, and some months later, I get this gorgeous painted artwork in the mail of Barkley that Dave had drawn. It was just absolutely beautiful. Every once in a while, you get like a little surprise like that, and it's really. I've got one here on the table. Look at his name. Shave. Is it Fosgitt? F-O-S. I think it's Fosgitt. Drew a Barkley and those Muppety things as well.
Nice.
But anyway, you get those in the mail and you go, oh, there's Barkley. But now the great thing, as you say, he seems to be back. There's a great excitement.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
It's like a Barkley fever. They said was going around the studio when I appeared for the cake sale, and it was people were lining up for photographs. And
that's wonderful.
It's really nice, to see that people are so fond of this character.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all these years. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So aside from, performing Barkley, you've done, other things like assisting occasionally and, doing the occasional background character. What can you kind of talk a bit about that aspect?
Yes. Well, I've been a slice of bread. Oh, you mean as a human being?
Yes, you did for the
song with Wayne Brady.
Yeah, with the between, yes.
And we were between, and the Wonder this is again why you make friends with the crew. They had made the costume with barge cement, which is very dangerous. You can't breathe it.
I know what that is.
Yeah, and one of the lady who does a lot of the painting on Sesame Street came in. She just stood right up and came for them and said they can't be in that costume without air filtration. And you have to do it in as few takes as possible because this is very dangerous to be enclosed in breathing barge. And they never interfere with a director or a scene, but she just got right in there. and she had a painting helmet or something, not a helmet, but like Darth Vader in a way, but there are two breathing things on each side of the mouth. Hard to describe, but that filtered the air. And she gave me hers, and they got another one for the other guy, and she said one take. She just put her foot down, and we did it in one take. The one direction they gave us for that was, you really want to make that sandwich. And so we were just pressing into Wayne, who was the cheese, and Frankie, Bianto, saying, "Hey Bruce, I know they weren't using Barkley much this year, but you were one angry slice of bread."
Oh wow.
So, and then when Wayne Brady saw me eating a bagel later, he said, "Cannibal."
That's funny.
Oh,
Isn't that funny? Funny.
That's wonderful.
So, but yeah, there was sometimes they would put me in the background. I had to have buy a bunch of clothes that were like solid bright colors for a while. And I remember at one point I said to the makeup people, they said, what do you want to do? And I said, you do, you know what to do. I said, all these people just want to look good. I mean, if there's anything special you want to do with me, I know you know how to do the makeup. So they would do all sorts of things to my face. And there was one time I was the refrigerator art museum guard, and they made me up as this ancient old man. And I went and stood next to one of the directors, and she had no idea who I was, but it was me. And then at one point, they put a gigantic mustache on my face, huge, like an Italian mustache from decades ago, but a great big mustache. And I was sitting way in the back reading a book to a little kid. And then there was another time. There was one time they did all my hair up in little ringlets, and they gave me a pair of Bill Irwin's glasses and Mr. Hooper's bow tie. And for that, I was the one of the porridge lovers. When the porridge lover machine goes out of whack, and they keep shooting out bowls of porridge.
Mm-hmm.
And they just said, call theporridgelovers.com, and we'll all come over and eat it. So they do a lot of weird things. But at one point, this is silly and embarrassing, but at one point, Danette, who used to hire me for those things, used to give us all the calls whenever we had a job. She said, they don't want to use you anymore. I said, why not? She said, because you're always wearing too much makeup. And I said, I don't make myself up. I just go in and I sit down on the chair. And I said, it's not me deciding what I look like. And I said, you could say, take the mustache off. You could say that. I'll take it off.
Right. Yeah.
No, you just have to come in and look like yourself. I said, just fine. Just no makeup. Just put makeup on me, but don't make me look like anything else but me. That's fine. So,
and you got to like assisting like the frogs for the version with Joe Scott for We're All Earthlings too.
Oh right, I was frog. I was frog legs. It was one little tiny frog.
Right. I love that version too.
I didn't even break a sweat on that one. That was the easiest thing, and that paid my rent a couple of times because they kept renewing it. But all I had to do was pull little wires, and the frog just had to swing his legs a little bit.
That's great.
The frog, and so every once in a while there's a background character. Also with the other Muppets, I've been like when Fozzie Bear's a walk-around character, I play that character.
Nice.
Boss Man, I don't know if
Nice.
Boss Man. He's got a big head, and he's on a fishing pole, and then he's got long arms on poles with big sort of floppy felt hands on them, and then the person who's holding the fishing pole with his head looks a lot like Dr. Teeth, and then he wears great big feet in front of him, and then the person behind him, I was doing the one behind him, I was the arms, and we did that with Harry Belafonte for Turn the Earth Around. But it's I think what other characters, but yeah, every once in a while they throw you in the background, which is sort of cool because they did the same thing with the Ninja Turtles too. Whenever I think each of the Ninja Turtles had a cameo as themselves in the movie. I remember Misha, when he comes up to his apartment at one point, you see him in the street, but just to show the human being without anyone really knowing that's the turtle,
Right. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So now, I know I kind of like mentioned a little tiny bit of that earlier, but like with you got to briefly work with Jill Scott for Raw Earthlings version and all that stuff. But like, who are some of your favorite celebrity guests you've got to work with on Sesame?
Well, because I didn't get to work with Julie Andrews.
Right.
That would have been
Yeah.
my favorite.
Yeah.
I didn't work with a lot of stars, or if I did, I didn't see them because I only see the keycaps. But I did get to work with Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh yeah,
Oh
that's
wow,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because there was an
great.
episode where he was on.
Right,
Yeah.
He was trying to get
right,
Big
yeah.
Bird to migrate, and that was
Mm.
it was great. It was like
Okay.
first day that all the humans were on the set, and there was Big Bird and Barkley and Elmo. I think that was it for the Muppets, and so we were all in one big group following Big Bird as he's about to migrate, and the adults were all saying, "So, how are you doing? Have you worked much?" No, I know me neither. No, I haven't seen. None of them had been on the show at all that year, except for that episode, and so they were all catching up on their breaks of what was going on with each one, and but anyway, so when Big Bird thinks he's going to see us all next week, and they try to explain to him that the rainforest is a long way away and we won't get to see him very often, and he starts crying, right? I miss all my friends. And now all Barkley, so here's dog for you. All Barkley knows is that Big Bird's upset. He doesn't know He doesn't know Big Bird's leaving. He is walking down the street with his teddy bear, a little suitcase, but doesn't necessarily know that he is picked up moving to the rainforest, right? So he wouldn't know that. But he does know that his friend is crying, and that makes Barkley upset, So that's a doggy thing. And that he would want to comfort him. But then while we're filming that, Lin-Manuel started crying because he said, "Here's my hero crying. I'm making him cry, and that's making me cry."
That's wonderful.
So just a couple of weeks ago, I was in the
That's
comic book
lovely.
store in Midtown Comics in New York, and Lin-Manuel was there buying his comics on a Wednesday, and he was talking to the guy at the front desk, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, that's the guy. He wrote Hamilton." And he walks out and he said, "Oh wait, I forgot to pay." He was so busy talking, and so he came back to pay. And as he gets back to the desk, he's about 4 feet away from me. I said, "You made Big Bird cry." And he turns to me and says, "I remember." He said, "Everyone was so excited because you hadn't been used that year, and this was Barkley. It was the first day for Barkley in a long time, and they were so excited that you were back." I'm thinking, Lin-Manuel remembering the man who was in the dog suit. Now that tells you a lot, because most people know there's a dog there, but they don't necessarily know who the dog is. They'd be in the suit, but he had seen me with my head off. But that was great. We're having a mutual admiration society. Bob Balaban, you might know him. He's done all the Guffman movies, those Guffman people, For Your Consideration and Mighty Wind, and what's the one about the dog show? Best in Show. I'm waiting for Guffman. He was the original Linus in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. But he's worked a lot, and he was on the show one time with his daughters, and he wanted a picture of Barkley. I said, "Wait a minute. First of all, I have to talk to you about how good you were as Linus." That would have been 30 years before. But just the fact that someone remembered him on stage as Linus was nice for him. It's always nice when you get a celebrity or something. But for me, I'm in awe when I'm on the set with the Count.
Oh yeah.
That's
great too.
I did that one you were talking about where Barkley doesn't stop barking. That was the first time that I was on the set with the Count, and I always wanted to be on set with the Count, because one thing I noticed with the of course, being fans, that after he finishes counting, he laughs, and there's always lightning and thunder.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And it happens so often through the years. I noticed that the human people sort of take it in stride. They know it's going to happen. But I thought, if a dog is on the set when that happens, he's going to react to that lightning and thunder. So I always wanted to be on screen with, and that was the one time I got to do it. So when he finished the 40 wonderful barks, lightning and thunder, and Barkley cringed and looked around for the thunder. I said, "That's the moment I wanted to do with the Count." So that was good.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's wonderful. So now since you kind of already talk about with Barkley coming back for for this generation of Sesame, which is great, and for Barkley got to do like some doing social media content like you already mentioned earlier with Barkley where I accidentally sits Elma, which I absolutely loved. Just so great. And the one with were like Barkley and Tango and Elmo with Maxine the fluffy corgi or something like that.
Yes. Yes, I guess she's an Instagram star. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
right.
I
I
guess
think
it's,
so.
I didn't
I
know who
didn't
she
hear
was.
about her
Something like
until
that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
There they were showing Big and Little. I think they were showing, doing size.
Hmm.
Ideas.
Right.
But yeah, so that was the first time I was on the set with Tango and
Leslie.
Tango's just
great
so
too.
adorable.
Yeah.
I know. Tango's. I mean, it's so great that Barkley and Tango are doing things together. Just so wonderful
Yeah,
about
it's really
Yeah.
cool.
right. We were on the same shot. We haven't gotten really to interact because she was on one side and I was on the other, so it really wasn't a scene with them. It was more like, let's look at the dog and the backpack, and so she had to smear treats all over her face for that dog to pay attention to her.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we'll see
with
what happens.
Barkley, it's odd when you look at it, isn't it? It's because of TikTok, it's sort of long and thin
Yeah.
screen as opposed to a wide screen, and Barkley is so wide that and Barkley looks so small. And I look smaller, I think, than the man who was sitting there, just because I had to be at a distance. I had to jump up on 2 apple crates that were behind him to get tall enough to be seen. I couldn't see the apple crates, so I just had to jump and hope, and I got them fine. But so my head was behind him, so I couldn't see him. I couldn't see where I was jumping to. I never saw his dog, but you just have to pretend it all is happening that way. And when Barkley jumps into that position, you're seeing a big dog, supposedly, with the little corgi and the little Tango. But
Right.
there was another one where I think you see us trotting off down the hall together. I don't know if you looked at that one. In the TikTok, it's just you see a close up of Maxine as the choice, so you see the corgi only. In that one, you see the 2 butts of Barkley trotting down the hall, and then the little corgi trotting down the hall next to Barkley as we walk down the hallway together. So
Nice.
that was cute. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I know I was working with them, but I didn't really get to see them. That's one of the things
Gotcha.
being in that costume. Unless they're still there when you take the head off, you don't really get to meet or see the celebrities
Right.
who are there.
Mm.
Yeah. And and people who kind of got to we refurbished Barkley, like where I think of Special on Richie, which he's also
John
great
Cody
too.
is another one.
And
So you're talking about all the people who worked on Barkley to refurbish
Yeah.
it?
yeah,
I
Yeah.
tell you, the work
Sebastiano,
they put
he's
into
great too. Another previous guest, and Annie Fresh, and yeah, like you just mentioned, Matt, John Cody, and the rest. I mean, they did such a wonderful job.
oh my
He
gosh, each one of
really
them had like a
did.
different part of the body, and there was one guy who fixed Barkley's tail so that whenever I had to wag my tail, like I don't know if you ever saw, there's what would they call it? Selena. Remember Selena? She had the dance studio.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's one long.
Right.
Oh, in that the idea of me telling the authors to hear all my suggestions for dog stories. There was one author who took 8 of them and put them in one story, and I thought this would give me 8 shows, so I would get a salary. No, I had everything in one show. I went, oh, okay. So, but one of them was Selena thinking that she could choreograph a dance with Barkley and these kids. And so we go to the dance studio. And so she gives Barkley sign commands, and Barkley does them, and the kids are doing them as well. So that was one of the ideas. But we did that. One of the signs was wag your tail, and to do that sign, you put your elbow with your finger pointing up at the ceiling on your other hand, and then just shake your finger back and forth. And But when I would do it, I would turn around and I would shake my rear end, but the tail would go swing one way and then come back to center and stop. And that was all. It didn't. You could move the back of the dog, but you couldn't move the tail back and forth like it was a real tail wagging. But the guy who was working on the tail fixed the mechanism, and now the tail wags again.
Yay!
I'm very impressed with it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's
Great for
terrific.
Barkley to tail.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful.
It's a little thing, but it makes me very happy.
Oh no,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean that's
Why
how
not?
dogs do, you know.
Yeah.
Why not
And
Barkley do that again, you know?
Right, they put a lot of new feathers and stuff into his tail. They're really beautiful. But each one, I mean, everyone was taking such pride in the work on that costume, and like one person was working on the feet and just combing out the fur on the feet and replacing what they needed, and going through the entire suit of the costume and replacing the little feathers in there to make it all fluffy, and all the work that they did on the new helmet. It's just very hard work, but they took it very seriously and did a great job. And they do everything beautifully over the creature shop is just great, and they have.
Oh, absolutely.
You walk in there and there's like a table covered with chickens. Oh my gosh!
Right.
I just love walking in there.
Mhm.
What, you have 12 chickens standing there, just looking at you with crossed eyes. That's just wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
So now, I want to kind of ask about how when you first know about Barkley is coming back and all that, how did the rebuild kind of how the whole process? Because I know you kind of talked a little bit with me about Warner Brothers and all that. I think it would be appreciated if you can talk about that aspect, how all that came to be.
well, I don't know much about all the background issue of it, but the hope was to do a movie, which hasn't happened. But Warner Brothers had said that they wanted to have Barkley in the movie, and they took care of the reconstruction of the dog. So when the option ran out last August, I think it was, they realized that Sesame Street now could use Barkley again, and so they put him into these two specials that we did this year with the cake special and then all the little TikTok things. And
right.
I guess were they all TikTok or are they Instagram? I'm not quite sure, but
probably
the ones
Instagram
we
and
talked about.
TikTok and
Yeah.
all that
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
all the
just for social
social
media
ones.
stuff. Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's so funny because I don't do social media at all. So I mean,
Right.
I can't even work Zoom. So it's
No worries.
the fact that they're putting Barkley on TikTok way before I would ever get on TikTok is making me laugh.
Exactly.
But yeah, for me, the thing is, I've always got to be ready in case. So you never know, when is he going to be used in the parades? Is there going to be a show coming up? Are they going to be able to use him? And so, training-wise, I just have to keep the training going up. So the ability to
Right.
run and breathe and strength exercises and all that kind of thing. It's just something I constantly do too. It's always the what if kind of thing. Like if I'm needed, I need to be ready because it's not a costume you can put on. Just do it. I go in 2 weeks before each appearance and over to the creature shop, and I run on the crutches around their boardroom and just get used to that again. Jogging and riding my bicycle and all that, keeping the lungs with the ability to suck air in quickly, kind of thing. So all that's necessary to then be ready for when I get into the suit.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But yeah, I hope Barkley will be coming back for more future seasons. Potentially Barkley will do some play dates with Tango. Hopefully fingers crossed, folks, about Barkley will appear again with regular Sesame episodes again. I think that'd be great.
That'd be
Oh, absolutely, indeed. So now, of course, when we've been talking about with Sesame, a lot of rather interview, of course. Now, moving on from Sesame Street, you worked on the film Old Dogs, where you performed the puppet originally used for Bozark the elephant from a series Animal Jam. What was that like?
Right. So and again, he's a full body costume, right?
Yeah.
So when those
Yeah.
things come up, they're very good at Henson to think of me, and they bring in their full body performers to perform those things. And they brought me over to the studio to try this amazing elephant costume, and it's all like crushed silk to make the wrinkly elephant skin. He's sort of bluish, and he walks on his hind legs, and he's like his rear end is like a pair of pants. So you from his waist down is the elephant with the big legs and the stomach, and then you wear that like suspenders, and then getting to the top, you put your hands up and you get into the arms. Are they arms? Like front legs of an elephant, and then the head has to sit on top of your head. So I'm looking through the chest on the elephant, and the head is on top of mine, and that wonderful swinging trunk, and they zip the costume closed around my middle. So again, the issue with that is the heat and lack of air. But and we were in the costumes that day for about 2 hours. The directors weren't connected to Henson. They had rented the costumes and the performers, but they weren't. It wasn't a Henson show, so there weren't people there who really understood what it was like to be inside a costume, except for Robin Williams. And
Robin.
Robin, yeah. And so he and John Travolta were in the scene that we did, and Bernie Mac.
John Travolta, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were basically Bernie Mac's show. We were trying to think, what kind of a show is this? He's got 5 or 6 big Muppets. There's a dragon. There's a 2-headed horse. There's a buzzard. There's me. There's the elephant. That might have been all of us. And then there were people walking, smaller people wearing panda suits walking around. Then there were these 3 lovely ladies, sort of slinky singers, dancing around Bernie Mac. And we think, what show? He's supposed to be a famous kiddies show performer. We're thinking, what kind of a show is this? I don't know. But they had us go back to back at the top of the scene. We're not in it for long, but they asked if we could dance. So first they had us walk apart. So we're back to back, the buzzard and the elephant, walk apart stiffly like we're robots, and then go out and just go crazy dancing. The crazy dancing isn't in the movie, so you just see us back to back and then walking stiffly, and not really seeing a lot of the movement that these puppets could do. But at one point they asked if I could come down the stairs, and I said, well, just show me the stairs. So I showed me the stairs, and I was able to do it, no problem. And this would be backstage, and the elephant comes down the stairs and passes Robin Williams and John Travolta. And then I meet up with some dancers in the background. We just become background characters there while the dancer, but he sort of improv'd working on a dance step with the elephant up in the background. But the nice thing about Robin Williams was he would incorporate me into his scene. So as I walked by, he always complimented me on the scene that he had just watched out in the audience, or there was always something he said that was special each time, always different to the elephant as he walked by. And I thought he didn't have to do that. John Travolta didn't deal with us. He just sort of stayed in his character and then said his lines as they were written. But Robin was always working with the people who were around him. And I had the feeling, because he had done, what was that movie, Get Shorty or something? Something about, and somebody's in a big animal costume in that show.
Yeah.
And I thought, he knows what it's like to be in these costumes. And every time they said cut, he started doing improv with the elephant. So he would take the trunk. He'd listen to a woman's heartbeat. Probably get in trouble today. I'd listen to the woman's heartbeat as she goes by with my trunk, or he'd do drugs with the trunk or whatever. He was always doing something off color, but not always off color. But it was always something very clever, but very Robin Williams with the elephant. And he also helped with, like I said, make the crew your first friends. So the crew set up a fan for me because they had brought a paper fan to wiggle at the elephant to get air inside me. It doesn't work. So the crew got a wind machine. You know how big those are? this
Yeah.
huge fan,
Mhm.
and on the breaks, as soon as they said cut, before Robin would start his improv, I would just go lean into the fan, and my trunk and my ears would blow behind me, and I would dry off and get some air that way, and then Robin would be funny, and then he would continue being funny until they count down 5, 4, 3, 2. They're
Yeah.
silent at 1, and then they go. So he would be doing jokes. 5 right through 5, 4, 3. He's still being funny on 2. He stops on 2. At 1, he's in character, and then he's completely in character at the time the camera starts rolling. And I realized he also, there's 2 parts to our scene. One is the show that we're doing with Bernie Mac, which supposedly Robin and his kids and John Travolta are out in the audience watching. And then there's the scene where we come backstage, and then John Travolta introduces Robin Williams to Bernie Mac, and they walk off together. And they had to do the scene 18 times.
Oh wow.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
I'm not saying who forgot his lines, but it wasn't Bernie Mac or Robin. And Robin came up to me at the 17th time. Like he didn't have to do any of this. He took my elbow through the elephant. He squeezed the elephant's leg till he got to my arm inside. He squeezed it in there and said, "We're going to get it this time." And I thought, that's just a kindness. He knows how hot it is in the costumes, but he knows as a human being in that. And the director wasn't saying, "Is everyone okay?" or "Anyone need a break?" Never. It never happened. But Robin was keeping us alive inside our costumes. He knew the person in there, which was really above and beyond. And he also came to sit in the audience, which wasn't being filmed when we were doing our show. And every time they did cut, he would start calling funny things out from the audience and keeping us laughing in our costumes, which he knows are hot and heavy, and but he could keep the actors alive. And I thought that was really very kind of him. That was the one time I worked with him, and I will always remember that kindness that he did for me in the elephant costume. All right, now here's a really funny story about the elephant. It's really funny, and very few people know about this. But okay, they didn't give us many breaks. We were in the suits for, like I said, 2 hours. They finally give us a break. Go downstairs with Connie Peterson, who's taking care of the costume, me in the costume that day. She works with Henson. And I said, I guess I better go use the restroom because you never know how long we're going to be in there again, So she had unzipped the top of the costume, so I'm just wearing the great big elephant bottom and the suspenders, and I go to the restroom. Now, someone was in it's the big stall, which is, well, you know what they are. I don't have to describe to you. There's usually a big stall, and then there's like regular size stalls. The big stall is being used, so I go into the little stall. Now, I was as wide as the stall. Now, on one side of the stall inside is a metal frame holding paper tissue seats or something that I guess you put on the seat so that you don't catch disease, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's that. On the other side is the toilet paper holder, which is sticking out. Now, to me, each of those could rip this silk costume that I'm wearing. So I'm trying to pull the costume in to get close enough to do what I have to do and not tear the costume. So I'm pulling it in on both sides as I get farther into the stall. The other problem, of course, is closing the stall door, because they open in. So you all think of a toilet now. They open in. So that means I have to go pretty far over the facility to close the door. So I lean way over, and then I'm reaching behind me in this elephant costume, and I get the door closed behind me. Okay. Now I can do what I have to do, and that takes gymnastics. And then, but I'm not tearing the costume on each side with the metal danger on each side of the stall. And then I have to leave. Well, I can't open the door. See what I mean? I'm taking up the entire stall. I can't reach
Right.
behind me and pull the door toward me. That doesn't work. I have to turn around to get the door open. And by now, there's no one else in the. I would be embarrassing to call out to someone for help, but anyway, there's no one else in the men's room, and I'm trying to turn to get around, but without tearing the costume on the two metal things, and I'm pulling the sides of the costume in toward me, I'm twisting, and I hear this creak, 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 and all of a sudden I hear this kind of a snap, and all of a sudden the door goes flying open the other way, like opening out. And I thought somebody must have come and released me, just saved me. But there's no one there. And I walk out, and the door is swinging freely out, facing out. And I realize I've broken the stall. That the stall side, which was the last stall in the row, is now hanging at an angle. That's like, say, it was at midnight, say, it's about 10:30 at this point, if it was a hand on the clock. So put the top of the stall at 10:30 instead of midnight, and it somehow snapped the bottom, and that's why the door flew open, because there was nothing holding it closed anymore. And I thought if only there was a camera running at that moment, I would have won the Funniest Home Videos $10,000 award. Elephant breaking the stall in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh man, so
that's great. But yeah, I know that other like puppeteers like got to work on that film, and Noel and John Candy and Matt Vogel too.
Yeah, I remember Noel being there. There were a couple of people I didn't.
Oh, he's doing a great job like directing for Sesame now. Oh my goodness.
Is Noel directing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. Noel's terrific. When Noel plays the
is.
visiting Snuffleupagus, which he
you're very welcome, Bruce. Yeah, right. Yeah, that character.
I'm the back of Noel, so.
Oh wow.
Noel's the front, I'm the back.
That's cool.
And sometimes it might be, I don't know. There were so many Uncle Abe Snuffleupagus. There were a few.
Yeah.
Reed and Grandma. I think one was Jen Barnhart at one point.
I love Jen. Jen Barnhart. She's the best. She's the best
ever.
Absolutely.
I've known her since she was 15. When I saw her.
Oh wow.
I went to be they call them an adjudicator. It's like someone to give notes on the high school productions for a drama festival, and this was for the Connecticut Drama Association. And I saw this amazing production of The Shadow Box. I don't know if you know the show, but it's about 3 cabin sort of things on the stage, and it's for a hospice, when hospice was first designed for cancer victims, and they go there to really live out their final days, and you follow 3 different families in 3 different houses. And I was giving notes to this devastating production. It was so beautifully, heartbreakingly done by the students, directed by a wonderful director in Connecticut called Julian Schlossberg. Was my roommate in college. He's a great, great director. Anyway, I was looking for the old lady, because there was this 80-year-old lady in the show that I wanted to compliment, and I couldn't find her among all these children. You look them on stage; they're full-fledged actors. You see them in the audience. You know, they have braces. They have, I think they're just like teenagers. Just waiting. Well, I said, "Where's the one who played the old lady?" And Jen raises her hand, and I'm looking at this young girl. She's 15 years old.
Oh my gosh!
I couldn't believe it. I thought they'd brought in a ringer, that they had brought in an actual 80-year-old woman to play this part.
Oh my gosh!
Because how are you going to get a 15-year-old to understand the 80-year-old woman? She was that good. Yeah.
So talented.
So that's when I met Jen Barnhart. Yeah.
That's wonderful. She's the best. She really is.
She is. So since we're getting
whenever
close...
Noel's, when he's a Snuffy, I'm the back end of his Snuffy.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So since we're getting close to wrapping up, besides Barkley, of course, being back at Sesame, can you share any projects that you're currently working on?
Yeah, there are 2 things coming in. One is I've just really since, I'm trying to think, is it 2020, maybe 2019? I've started getting my stories published. I had gone to Comic-Con and I met this
Right.
lovely lady in she looked very shy, but she was wearing steampunk clothing. So there's something about that combination that usually with steampunk you think people can be pretty much solid and in your face and kind of striding along through life like wearing very cool stuff that I wouldn't dare wear. But she was wearing this, but it turned out she was a very shy lady, but she wore the steampunk costume to give herself bravery so that she could speak to people about her works. And eventually I went to visit her in Yorkshire, and now they're publishing my stories regularly. I've done like 15 stories in her books. Got a new story coming out in October.
Nice. Which is called on the October 4th called What's the Dickens? Is that it?
How do you know these things?
I'm telling you, the cameras everywhere. They just.
Jake must have like a whole encyclopedia up in here.
That's something I didn't even know. Wow.
I didn't even know that either. See, Jake's done this before. Come on.
Oh my God!
I mean, I'm the host of this thing, so.
Yeah, but what about the rest of us? Like, just throw us to the dust. Okay, fine. See, I see how it is.
Pretty much.
Well, you're very welcome, everyone. For me,
thank you, Jake. Thank you.
Guess. Well, you're very welcome, Matt, and the rest of you.
No, the rest of us didn't have anything.
Right, so that story, that's next. And I've got a couple of other stories I'm working on that they'll publish them as they come along. But then my next show, I'm doing a new play called God Bless Us Everyone. It's a Christmas show, and I'm playing a ghost who, I guess the premise is that this ghost troupe of actors come back when the theater is empty at Christmas time and do their own production. But at this point, the humans their live people have been snowed in. So when the ghosts arrive to do their production, the humans haven't been snowed in. They haven't been able to get home for their Christmas. And there's this interaction, and they put on a sort of a production of A Christmas Carol. But I'm a ghost from 100 years ago with my wife the ghost. I asked the director, did something wipe us all out? I mean, why are we all dead? And she hadn't thought about that. She didn't know why yet we were all dead. And my son also is dead. He used to play Tiny Tim. I said, but now he's 35 and he's 6 feet 2. I said, how's he be playing Tiny Tim? Did he die later and then join us, or how's the afterlife work in this play? Well, I'm still thinking about that. Well, we don't start rehearsal till Halloween, so they'll be able to figure all those bits out. But I'm my ghost and my wife, the ghost, are usually the Cratchits in our production of Christmas Carol. And it turns out that a lot of the other ghosts have moved on, gone on to the next level where whatever happens. So I have to play Scrooge.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Nice.
That's the next one. And then after that, the next May, they've asked me to do the Sunshine Boys. So this will be my third time doing the Sunshine Boys, which is one of my favorites. And
nice.
I play this crabby old man who used to be a vaudeville performer who can't stand his sidekick. They haven't spoken in years, and that was the movie that George Burns won Best Supporting Actor with the Oscars.
Nice.
Very nice.
Looking forward to all those.
Yes. Well,
nice.
Yes. Likewise. Yes.
Yes. So
looking forward for them.
So to end this off, the last question that we usually ask at the end, our guest co-host Keelin here will ask. Go ahead, Keelin.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't have to ask it if you don't want to, Keelin.
No. I knew all along though. So the question is, and this is just, I can't believe I'm saying this. First time I'm saying it. When you think of nostalgia, what does that mean to you personally? If I said that right.
When I think of nostalgia?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what does it personally mean to you?
It would mean to me it's of something of a bygone time that you remember fondly. Like for instance, when I was like 3 or 4 hours ago, when I mentioned Dark Shadows.
Which fun enough, Keelin has to.
Actually showed like at the album I have, but like
the album, right,
Right.
So cool.
So we have those of us who love Dark Shadows have a great feeling for it. Not only brings back that show, but it brings back the feeling of the time that the show was in. And I know nostalgia seemed to have come back into theater a couple of years later than that, or maybe it was around the same time. Yeah, it was when I was in college, when No No Nanette came back on Broadway, and everyone was talking about nostalgia, and to them at that time, and that therefore influenced my feeling of nostalgia. It was bringing back feeling of a period of time. At that time, it would have been 50 years before, bringing a show back from that bygone days, and everyone suddenly started wanting to tap dance and bring back all the costume styles into their clothing of that time period. So nostalgia brings you back to, I'd say, a different time and with great fondness.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Is that good?
Yeah, no, perfect.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Absolutely.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No worries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
Bruce, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This is a blast.
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
you're welcome. Sorry about the lack of
very much.
technology in my home.
It's okay.
But,
No worries
It's
at all.
totally fine.
No worries at all. I mean,
It
we're
worked
glad we
out.
got to make it happen. Yeah, and that's what matters. But yeah, thank you so much, Bruce, for being here. It was such a fun chat. Thank you so much for what you've done. You know, throughout your career in general, over the years that us and you got to know from your career from Barkley and everything else. Keep up the great work of what you're doing now, and I cannot wait what's next in store for you. And thank you so much for what you've done. In a way, is a part of our worlds as a nostalgia way. So thank you very much for that. And Keelin, thank you so much again for being a guest host for this amazing episode. We really much appreciated, and so great for you doing this, be part of this.
Yes.
So
oh, Jake, stop lying.
well, I'd love to see you all at some point.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
I suppose I would see it when you put it online. I would see you guys.
Yeah, we do.
That's
well, it would be audio only. So, but what we'd do is we'd have like pictures of like different things you've done.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure whenever doing this again, just for a visit. I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'd totally be down for that.
Yeah, I'd be down for it.
And I'll just send you like pictures of Keelin's costume and all. So or if you want to, I can just send your email to you four, and start to you three, and if that's completely fine with you, Bruce.
Oh, that's fine. And I'll get in touch with Frankie. I'll send him off a note tomorrow, and hopefully I'll hear from him. When we used to have this woman, Danette DeSeno, like I say, the woman who would hire me for whatever, call me and say you have a show in 2 weeks, and she no longer works there. But she was one who was always keeping me in touch with what happened to everybody and so on. With Frankie, I only would hear of him when I get on the set, and then I'd say, "You're an animal," But the news of him comes from when I see other people. The first thing I always ask is, "How's Frankie?" I know he's in his 90s at this point, and but there's so many Frankie stories that I've got that are just he's like I say, he's kept me alive, and he's been absolutely amazing. But I will send him off a note, tell him that you would like to interview him, and I think it would be great. I think it would be really wonderful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he'll have a lot of fun stories. I'm sure he'll definitely mention you.
At the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Well, thank you so much again, Bruce, and have a great rest your evening. Take care. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye, Bruce.
All right, take care. All right, bye-bye.
Yes,
all right, bye.
Likewise. Thanks again. Take care, Bruce. Bye, my friend.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Do I hang up now?
And bye to and bye to Barkley.
Good. Now.
I don't want to disconnect the phone call until we finish.
That's okay. It's okay.
And bye to you too, Barkley.
There you go.
That's great.
He was right here all along, just waiting.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yes. All right. See you later, Bruce.
Okay. Take care.
Bye. It's goodbye from us as well. We absolutely enjoyed our time with the wonderful Bruce Connelly. Keep on the lookout for more wonderful interviews coming your way. And as always, what do we say, Jake?
Keep nostalgia alive. Take care, everyone. See you next time. Take care. Bye.
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 Get lost.
Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode. Be sure to follow Jake and the Happy Nostalgia team on social media, check out our website, and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.